gives a fuck?
Okay, so we were just talking about history hyenas and how they're going out of business or whatever.
Okay, well, first of all, Polina, this is something you need to start learning quickly. You start podcasts with just no introduction. It's just chaos. It's just
Okay.
complete. This is something you're going to need to start learning. So
Okay.
let me help you out. You
Go
say,
ahead.
"Hi, I'm Polina." Go ahead.
Oh, okay. No, I like it when other people do the intro for me. So you can go ahead.
Okay. Hi, I'm Polina Harris, and this is Polina's Ordinary and Awkward podcast. This is episode, I believe, 3.
Yep.
It's a very special episode. I'm kind of a numerologist, which means I find meaning in numbers. And 3 to me is actually a really bad number, in my opinion. I don't like 3. A lot of people love the number 3. I don't. However, that being said, I'm happy to be your third guest.
Why don't you like the number 3?
I think it's kind of evil. I think there's something evil about the number 3. I think there's something sinister about the number 3. I think if number 3 was personified, I don't know. I don't know if I trust that guy.
Mm-hmm. Just some bad juju.
Are you a numerologist? Do you find meaning in numbers? Any numbers?
Not at all.
You don't have a lucky number?
I have always tried to, like, some people ask you, like, pick a number, like, what's your number? Like, what's your favorite number? I don't fucking know. I have no idea. Maybe 2, maybe 4. I don't know. I like even numbers.
So you like even numbers?
But it doesn't really, I don't have a number that I'm like, ooh, that's a sexy number. Like,
It's not necessarily a sexy thing. Okay, let's start here. Do you have any people misuse this word all the time? Obsessive compulsion, OCD. Would you say you have any obsessive compulsive tendencies in your life?
make my bed every morning. I don't think that's obsessive though.
What did you say?
I make my bed every morning. I have to have my room clean, but it's not obsessive because
Yeah.
I can go.
I think people mistake OCD with just being kind of neurotic about being clean and orderly. Like people that are high in orderliness, they often say I have OCD, but they don't. I have a little bit of OCD and it's weird. It's weird. I'm aware that I have a little bit of OCD. It's nothing severe, but I gotta turn that shit off.
Me too.
We're gonna edit this out.
It's hard to edit the videos. Like, I'm so bad at it.
You're gonna edit this out. Okay, what was I talking about?
Numerology.
No,
OCD.
I think people that are really high in orderliness, they mistake that for having obsessive compulsive disorder. I've had bouts of obsessive compulsions. They're kind of weird. They're usually in regard to numbers, doing things in numbers, like the classic radio volume number, right? What is that? Why does everyone have that? You know, why, or not everyone, but why is that kind of normal? Why is it normal that people are like, needs to be an even number, it needs to be an odd number, it needs to be a multiple of 5? Because a lot of people feel like if they don't do that, something bad's gonna happen, right? Like that's what I think obsessive compulsive. It's like
the definition of, yeah.
It's an irrational fear of something kind of menial. Like it needs to be an even number. Why? Why does it need to be an even number? Because if it's not, I'm gonna go to hell. Like it's kind of
yeah,
weird.
it's unexplicable, like bad. You feel like something bad is going to happen if you don't do X, Y, and Z, and it usually has to do with numbers. Do you flick lights on and off a couple times?
Yeah.
You do?
I've done that. It's not like nothing crazy.
Yeesh, dude. Kind of yikes.
It's only happened a couple times. Like I've had bouts where like I would have to flip the switch twice or something. But nothing. I know people that they have to literally before bed. They have to like.
Wait, sorry. I'm gonna stop you real quick because remember we were doing my intro and then you just went on this tangent. What's your point?
This is the problem with alcohol, right? So, oh, by the way, this is non-alcohol. This is a Capri Sun.
Yeah, mine too.
for my future employers watching this, non-alcoholic pre-sun sport. It's a youth sports drink.
Yeah. I'm drinking tap water, so.
Let me just salt my mouth for this sports drink. I have a plate of salt for my margarita.
That's beer, though.
I know, but I'm gonna pre-salt the beer. I'm just gonna see how that goes.
Sounds nice.
What are we talking? Oh, wait.
Pause. Okay, I'm gonna real intro though.
Yeah, no.
You're Harris. We met in undergrad at
Let me explain that a little bit.
Okay, sure. Do you remember how we met?
Yeah, I think so. Yes, I do. So Polina and I we were the same major, and we're not going to discuss that major. We were the same major, and we were in a lot of the same classes. And I saw you all the time. I knew who you were. If someone took me out of my life before I met you and they were showing me slideshow of just random people, I'd be like, yes, I've seen that girl before and I know who she's in my classes.
Yeah, all kin majors were like we're all in like the same classes. There's like,
do me a favor and not say the word kin. Can we just exclude that word from this?
Why? What's wrong with kin?
The people in kin.
I'm really proud of our major. I love that we majored in kin.
It's really good. It's really holy and everything. But I'm just saying, people in kin make me want to just say I majored in really anything else. Let's be real. Dance.
Yeah.
We're gonna cut this out.
No.
Please.
No, I'm keeping everything, especially you salting your beer or Capri Sun. But anyways,
it's not a good look.
So
far, I'm not doing this to myself. Okay. So anyways, I knew who Polina was. She was a human being that I frequently saw. She was in my visual periphery, and occasionally I remember I knew you to be someone who would ask decent questions. Like I remember most people that raised their hand in class, I would be like, they would raise their hand, right? And they'd ask just a ridiculously stupid question. I'd just be like, that was the dumbest thing I've ever heard. But then
what side do I staple it on?
Yeah.
What side?
So like, is the test like cumulative?
Yeah.
Midterm, yes, it's cumulative. So basically, I was used to that, and then you'd raise your hand, and I remember thinking like, ready to hate you. I was ready to hate you, and then you'd ask a question. I'd be like, it's a pretty decent question. That's a respectable question. So you stood out to me in that way, and I remember I told you this, and you sort of enjoyed this in a weird way. I told you that you looked like a girl that really enjoyed horror movies. And I remember your verbatim words in response to that were, I like that. That's
yeah, I do. I think that's a cool like way for if people look at me and they're like, that girl probably likes horror movies. I don't know why. I like that. I don't. I hate horror movies. It's so bad.
I'm kind of with you. I used to like horror movies, but then I realized that every time I watch them, it just negatively affects my psyche for like 3 weeks.
Yeah, exactly.
For 3 weeks, everything I do is kind of negatively affected. Like I'll just be outside at night and I'll be like, someone could easily slit my throat right now. Yeah. And I just find myself like being weirdly anxious about that. And it's just, why do that to yourself? I don't know. I don't get it. It's like a weird, like some people fetishize watching violence. Like on Reddit, there's like a whole subreddit to watching people get really injured. I think watch people die.
No thanks.
It's got a bunch of subscribers. People love watching that shit.
You mean 4chan?
Yeah. You're not on 4chan?
Nope.
I see. I didn't used to like watching people die. That's not what I'm gonna say. But I used to like. I had kind of a morbid curiosity when I was younger. I wanted to see videos of kind of terrible things happening, and I don't really know why that is. I remember I would go in my room and I would just search like tragedies happening on YouTube and like just watch like explosions. And for some reason
Can I ask you a question? Did you ever harm or kill animals as a child?
Okay, no, but here's the one exception.
Oh God.
Ants. There was a phase that I went through when when in hindsight was torturing mass amounts of ants.
Dude, did
Yeah,
you ever go to Camp Evergreen?
no.
There was, because I swear it might have been you, some like little brown kid at my camp during like our assemblies outside. He would lay on the ground and like eat ants.
Wasn't eating ants, right? I didn't have mental deficiencies. I was
And we
simply.
would ask him, we'd be like, dude, why are you eating ants? He's like, they have so much protein.
Well, that kid's probably a serial killer.
He's probably a kin major now.
Yeah, well, hopefully not. I wouldn't wish that on anyone. See, you went to a lot of weird camps. Can we address that? Can we just address that quickly?
I went to so many weird camps: Russian, Jewish, math camp, all girls
Let's
sports
pause
camp.
on that.
Okay.
Math camp.
Yep.
What does that even entail?
Um,
What do you do?
so it's basically just a regular camp, except for 1 hour a day you go to math class, and there's like at the end there's like a test that you have to take to like move up a level, but it's not really that important. Obviously, like it's not real school, so.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. If I had to imagine what hell was, if I really
No,
had to,
dude, it was fun. It was cute. And at the like there were formals, and the boys had to ask the girls to the formal, and we would like dance, and it was like we would have dinner before, and then we would go to the thing, and we would have like the when I stopped going was when they stopped having integrated swim. When they separated swimming for girls and for boys, I was like, I'm out. If I can't, yeah.
so it's a math camp with swimming.
Yeah, it was a regular camp, dude. Regular activities. Like you're,
Okay, so what this was just a normal camp, but
yeah,
they just added a math class to it.
yeah.
That's horrible. That's a terrible. So I
No, no,
hate.
it's because it's established. So there's this like in the Newton area, there's this like RSM, it's called Russian School of Math. You've heard of it, I'm assuming.
It was Russian.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, everyone knows Russian school math. Yeah.
Yeah, everybody knows RSM. So RSM has a camp that they like established somewhere in like New Hampshire, and that's why they have the hour of math. It's because it's RSM camp. It's like the camp of the math school.
I mean, it still sounds like a tragedy that it exists to me. And I get everyone's different, right? You're Russian, you're
And Jewish, and
you're,
Jewish.
you're
And the whole camp was Russian and Jewish. Like we would have like Shabbat dinners, we would have like days where we would learn about like the Jewish history, all that shit. I was in the theater productions. I was we had The Wizard of Oz like as a
were
production.
you a theater kid?
I was
Were
a big theater kid.
So throughout school, if I was to study the population of your school when you were a student, and I was classifying the cliques of individuals, right? And I was subcategorizing, you would be part of the theater kids.
No, if you went to my school, like my high school, my middle school, I was not part of any clique. I was like the girl eating lunch by herself in like a corner of the library where you're not even allowed to eat lunch, but the librarian, I guess, felt so bad for me. He would just like let me go in my corner. I had a special corner. I would eat my lunch there.
Really?
I think that was,
So,
yeah.
okay, so that's not okay. That's interesting. So you throughout middle school and high school.
Well, it was only like 2 years in high school because of that whole debacle where like people started a rumor about me that I like had cheated on my like high school boyfriend, when in
Your
reality
high school boyfriend.
that was the rumor, but in reality I broke up with him and he said no. And then when I went to go hang out with like another guy and I told my girlfriend about it, and then she like I guess it got out, and my house got egged, my car got egged.
By people that were just defending the honor of this guy.
He was the most popular guy in, well, there's like different popularities, right? There's like the popular guy who's like popular because he's hot, and then there's the popular guy that's like popular because he's nice to everybody. And he like grew up in the town his whole life. He knows everybody.
Hold
That
on.
was this kid.
So he was the nice guy.
He was the nice guy. He was my best friend for the longest time. And he was always like in love with me. And at some point I was like, why? I was like, I gotta let the nice guy win. I have to go out with him. And then we went out and I was like, you're so goddamn like not my type.
Okay, so let me get this straight. You're going through middle school, you're going through high school the whole time. This very nice guy, I assume.
This was
In
just high school. Middle school is a whole other fucking debauchery.
Okay, you know what, that is true. That's true. Middle school is an entirely different entity. So throughout high school, this very nice guy, I assume, in terms of physical attractiveness, he was maybe average. From the.
No, he was cute. I mean, he was cute. And he was so nice to me. He was part of that theater group. He was like the big like theater guy. He
Big
grew up
theater
uptown.
Okay, interesting. Okay, so he's the big theater guy. You're not associated with the theater group at all.
I was in the theater group. It's just that I wasn't really part of that like theater clique. I was always annoyed, just like how I am with everything. Any group I'm a part of, I'm at least annoyed with 80% of the people that are also part of that group, which is slightly hypocritical, but that's how I am. So
Would
I
you
wasn't.
consider yourself like a hipster by nature? Would you consider yourself someone that no matter what setting you're in, you're gonna find a way to go against the grain? Is that do you identify with that?
Dude, I don't think I try. I think it just happens to me. I've come to the realization that the universe likes certain people and it doesn't like certain people. And the universe most certainly does not like me. It's got some sort of gripe with me. I don't know what I did in my past life so
What made
that
you say that?
it's more just like the things that happen to me. Like if I'm walking down a road and like in another dimension you're walking down the same road, I'm gonna be the one that like trips on like literally a twig and face plants into the ground.
Okay, so you think you have bad luck.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, obviously I don't live.
It's in the little things, like big things. I'm pretty sure. Like I mean, I got into dental school. I've like done well, but I don't know if that's luck. It's the little things. Like if I park my car for a second in like a ticketed zone, I'm gonna get a ticket, whereas somebody else might not.
But at what point is it your fault versus the universe's fault? You know what I mean?
I'll tell you this one. I once parked. My friend Michelle lives in like the Boston area, and she, yeah, she lives in a um she lives in this area where like you have to like walk across the street and you park at a meter. And in between, so my meter read like thing ended, and as I'm paying for the next one, like there's a time that my meter is not paid, my car is just standing there as I'm paying on my phone for the next one in her house. We walk out. During that like 5 minutes that I'm paying for the thing, I got a ticket.
Okay. So do you think any of this is maybe due to sort of a almost like a bias you have where you sort of are just like nitpicking all the shitty things that happen in your life and you're just illuminating them, and so it just seems like your life is full of shit when in reality there's plenty of good things happening all around you all the time, and you're just sort of just snuffing them out and not illuminating them, and not it's sort of glass half full versus glass half empty perspective. To me it seems like menial shitty things happen to a lot of people all the time.
Yeah. It's just a little bit like kind of ridiculous. Like this is Noah would say this to me as well. He would like be like, I think you're fine. Like this, and then he hung out with me a bit more and he was like, oh yeah, the universe hates you. I think he would agree with me now that the universe a little bit hates me a little bit.
Okay. Why do you think the universe might hate you? Do you have a hunch that maybe you did something in a past life? Like maybe there's just you were just being a little egregious in your last life and
You know what it is? I think have you ever like been around like a big animal, like a big dog that like could attack you? Um
yes.
so okay, in those situations, animals they can smell fear. Like I was at the horse camp, and if a girl walks up to a big horse and she's like afraid of it, he's gonna like walk up to her and like stomp on her foot. He's gonna like do something egregious. Whereas if a girl walks up to the horse and she's like, hey, like stop it, like stop doing what you're doing, why are you like trying to step on my feet, if you're like nonchalant about it, the horse is going to respect you. I think that's a little bit my relationship with the universe. I'm a little bit very timid and unsure of everything. So the universe is like, oh, well, it's so easy to fuck with this girl. We're just going to do it.
I like that. That's interesting. Okay, so you think you're equivalent to the fearful girl walking up to the, or the apprehensive girl. You, the apprehensive girl walking up to the horse is to you walking up to the universe.
Yep.
Okay, that's interesting. So, so you're fearful by nature.
I'm unsure by nature.
Well, I think we're all unsure. I think you can't be sure.
Some people are very secure in their decisions and decisions are easy for them. And some people are so confident in themselves.
But why do you think that is? Do you think that's because someone is sure something is going to happen, so they're delusional?
No,
Because
no, I think they just believe in themselves. Like they see, okay, I mean, subconsciously, they're like, okay, in my past, I've made decisions and they've worked out and I feel good about myself. And so I'm just going to trust myself and that my decision is okay. And if not, then that's okay too. If my decision is wrong, I'll be okay with that. I'm a little bit,
so do you think it's so there's something called a success bias, where people that are successful, they attribute their success to everything that they've done in the past that led to their success. Even and they don't generally account luck for that. So let's say you have 10 people, they're all setting out for the same goal. Five of those people have a family tragedy and their goals get torn down because of just by chance something tragic happened and they couldn't get to this end goal. And then the one guy who ends up getting to the, or girl who ends up getting to the end goal, they attribute their success to everything they did. They attribute all their success to saying, oh, my work ethic was perfect and everyone else that didn't reach this goal clearly didn't have the right work ethic. So
not
I'm
assuming that everybody who had tragedy strike gave up, but sometimes tragedy can make you more motivated. I think it's a bit of luck and it's a bit of your own mental state and your drive. It's both.
I mean, I agree that it's both. I agree that it's both 100%. But I also think that some things are out of people's control. I think there's some things
Yeah,
that,
a lot of things are out of your control. Yeah, the only thing you control is how you react to the shit that happens to you.
sure, sure. And I mean, to be honest, this is the problem with alcohol because we're on this tangent and I'm losing track of the substrate.
Yeah, that's my fault because you're interviewing me right now, and that is not, that's the opposite of what's supposed to be happening.
Okay.
So let me ask you this then. You have some shit going on with your hand,
Yeah.
and you're getting it fixed or whatever. Are you like somewhat afraid that if they fuck it up, you're not going to be able to play music?
Somewhat afraid. I would say very much so afraid.
Yeah.
Everything I do in my life that I enjoy pretty much involves my hands in some way, shape, or form. And surgery is scary. I think we're at the point now where we have so much faith in the medical field that like when someone tells you they're getting surgery, you almost don't even you don't care. You're just like, oh yeah, it'll be fine. You're getting surgery, it's fine. But I mean, it's kind of crazy. Someone's cutting into your body, removing. I mean, you rewind 100 years, that would be insane. That would be
But same
absolutely.
thing with getting into a car, getting on a plane. I always think about that. Every time I get in a car, I'm like, I could die. Every time I get into a plane, I'm like, this is crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is a rabbit hole. This is because the second you start getting into just the risk of things, the only logical conclusion is okay, let's not do anything
Yeah. But
then.
then you risk going crazy by yourself in isolation, which also,
Okay, all right. Let me address this. Why is isolation scary?
because you're left with your own thoughts. And sometimes when you are alone for a long time, you make up dialogue with yourself. You're like making up shit to entertain yourself, and that gets like fucked up real fast.
Okay. Okay. All right. Fair enough. So the benefit of socialization, at least somewhat in my opinion, is that it's not an echo chamber necessarily. Like whenever you have a thought and you say something, it doesn't just get resonated back into your own ears like a positive feedback loop and get reinforced. Your friend or your acquaintance might say, what are you talking about? That's stupid. I think this way. And then you sort of reach this homeostasis where you come to an agreement of somewhere in the middle. And it's a way of evening yourself out. It's a
Mhm.
way of sort of,
Except that doesn't really happen anymore, right? Everybody is so set in their ways. You can't even have a normal conversation with people about most things. Certain conversations are outlawed, so people are becoming stuck in their own ways, isolated in a form of thought, and you can't, because you can't talk about these things. Isn't that wild?
well, I think you say everyone, but also it's like
No.
that's sort of the zeitgeist, right? That's the spirit of everyone. That's it seems like everyone is that way, but I don't think that's the truth. I think genuinely, I think throughout every generation of people, every single generation, unanimously, everyone in that generation will think, oh my God, this generation is fucked. Everyone's stupid. No one, the past generations were way better than us. We're going downhill. But in reality, the same bell curve exists.
But maybe we are going downhill. That's also entirely possible.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
We've reached a real like very advanced state of technology, and it feels like, have you heard of Elon Musk developing that neurochip, Neuralink?
Have I heard of Elon Musk? Yes.
No, the Neuralink
I'm very
specifically.
familiar with Neuralink.
Okay.
I'm very
Did you watch the press conference where they brought out the pig and that whole thing where they first were talking about it? Did you see that press conference to the end where like they went at the end of it, he was like saying, "Okay, I want everybody on the team to go down in a line and say one thing that you're like hoping that this Neuralink does. Like why are you here? Why are you in this project? Like what's like your motivation behind this?" Like three people said, three of these like little lab boys were like, I am so excited for Neuralink because it will eliminate the need for like physically, like, literally communicating. They were like, there will be no more misunderstandings. We'll be able to like read each other's minds. Like we don't have to we don't have to say anything verbatim. It will just be, I think that's crazy
okay.
scary. And I
Okay.
think
So
this plays into like how any technological advancement that we make from now on has such a big like, yes, we can do this, but should we aspect? Maybe we are going downhill.
okay, let me address. Let me take this one step at a time.
Yes.
Yeah, the communication aspect of that, what you said. So let's think of whenever you are talking to someone, let's think of what is really happening. So, say you want to tell someone an idea you have. You have a mental construct that is complex. It's almost visual in nature. When you have a real visceral idea about something, it's a complex, it's a complex, essentially data set of information that you have in your head that you understand and you can see it and feel it and sense it and understand it. And now you want to transfer it to someone else, right? When you're telling someone an idea you have, that's what's happening when you're talking to someone. So what do you have to do? You have to take this idea, this complex mental construct you have, and condense it into a set of words. So you have to condense it into a set of words to which we think we have a universal understanding of, but we don't. One word to me might mean something different to you.
We have had so many arguments about this,
Right.
about
Yes.
little words that like I will say or you will say, and I'll be like, what the fuck?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, us two specifically. I understand what you're saying. Yes, that's
Massive
definitely.
roadblock to proper, effective communication.
However, I will say this, sorry to interrupt you, but I think that is the beauty. Like you have to do that in order to develop like your every time basically you have a like a disagreement with someone about like a word, a small word, it broadens your understanding of it. Maybe you have to like look it up again. Maybe now like you understand this word better and you can use it better. Like that's how you improve as a person, right? That's how you get better at communicating.
I agree. I mean, I appreciate and I enjoy the art of speaking and the art of language. I completely enjoy it. I appreciate it as a very human and a very animalistic and a beautiful, beautiful mechanism of transferring data, essentially. I think it's gorgeous. I love the idea of it.
But would you want a Neuralink to be able to take that away?
Here's the thing. A Neuralink doesn't necessarily take it away. It doesn't take it away. What it does is it opens up another medium of transferring data. And it's theoretically there's a ceiling and there's a major fallacy in essentially it's inefficient the way we transfer data, because if we are really at the highest level, we're at the highest level of data transfer, right, from me to you. We're at like the pin, like the forefront of advancement of human thought. Okay, words a lot of time are obsolete because when you're really,
Oh,
here's the thing, there's too much ambiguity. If you really want to transfer an idea with fidelity, an idea that you're say if Einstein needed to transfer some crazy insane thought he had, right,
but
some
he didn't though. He was able to communicate it in
right,
in a like
it's a miracle, and it's a miracle that he was a master physician, not a physician, a master mathematician. He was able to articulate what he thought in math. That's insane. I mean, I could never even think about starting to try to do that. And that's the gift that Einstein had. He had an idea that was
if you
honestly
give
kind
it
of rudimentary. Like
if
if you really think about it, Einstein's idea was a little bit rudimentary. It's sort of a basic thought. It's like something a stoner would think. Someone, dude, like, what if space is like a fabric and like when planets are in it, it like bends the fabric.
dude,
And
that's so not basic. That is so
I
not
get, but it's just
basic.
like a stoner thought. It's like I can picture myself just saying, dude, like, what if that's like what gravity is? And then people would be like, yo, that's crazy. Einstein was able to fucking put math to that. That's what's amazing about Einstein. Einstein was able to think that.
But
And
everybody has those ideas. Everybody has like crazy thoughts. Like we're going to talk about like dimensions later. Like we can talk about that all we want. What makes those other people special is that they can then go into like this other like place where they like are able to like completely take this idea to another level. Like they can write it down, they can write it in math, they can communicate it in a way where I don't know. But if we give this like gift to everyone, if everyone has a Neuralink and everyone's able to do that, then if everything is beautiful, then nothing is beautiful, right? Like
okay, yeah, I see what you're saying, 100%. I completely see what you're saying. And in a lot of ways, I agree. In a lot of ways, first of all, we can't even really conceive of what it would be like for
right.
everyone to have this ability to transfer. We don't. It's
I just know that it's a scary, scary thought to me. This is terrifying, and I don't want that at all. Because even with the advent of phones, I'm like texting people now, and instead of like on a train, instead of looking around it, like now if I was at a party the other day. I was at a party and I didn't really have anyone to talk to at the moment. So I'm just sitting in my chair and I'm looking around at the people, and it's like a pretty small house. So like I'm looking at someone like who's like right here in front of me. And there are these girls like dancing to the music or whatever. And they're like, I don't know, they looked like, I don't know, I was just watching these like girls dance, but then I was like, maybe I guess like the girls that were dancing like perhaps like might have felt a bit uncomfortable because it's I guess it's a lot more weird for a person to just be sitting there like staring, kind of like you can't just like look at somebody because it's weird now. It's like, why aren't you looking at your phone? Why aren't you stimulating like yourself in some other way? Why are you just like looking at people?
it's become so unanimous and universal that like whenever you're idling as a human,
You have to look at your phone,
Oh,
but there's
yeah.
like,
If you're not, you're weird. Like,
yeah, yeah.
why are you not doing the thing that everyone does? Yeah, it's in a lot of ways, it's really kind of cancerous. Like the way I remember vividly, I vividly remember the first week that the first generation of the iPhone was invented and publicized. I remember vividly, I was a child and I saw the commercial and I went to my mom. I was like, "That's incredible." I was like, it's a touch screen. You touch it and it responds to your finger touching the
You
screen.
mean the iPod? Because the iPod Touch was the first touch screen that we saw.
I think it was the first. I vividly just remember the first iPhone.
Okay, all right.
I remember the iPhone was mind-boggling to me. I had a Razor with a dragon on
I
it.
never had my Razor.
You never had a Razor?
Nope, I had one of those, you flip
Sidekick?
it up like that and it had like a keyboard, one of those.
You had a sidekick.
Yeah, and yeah,
You were lucky. You were lucky. I was jealous of all the kids who had
I
sidekicks.
wanted a Razor. Oh,
See, that's amazing. See, that makes me happy because now I know that there was at least one person in the world that thought I was cool for having a Razor.
yes.
Okay. Okay, well that makes me feel good. That makes my 8-year-old self feel really good. Anyways, I remember when the first iPhone commercial came out, it boggled my mind. I was thinking this is incredible. This is amazing. You went from the pinnacle of phone technology was the Sidekick. The Sidekick was the iPhone. That like up until the iPhone came out, the Sidekick, that was the phone that was revolutionary. And it was so cool. The fact that it had a keyboard and the screen that moved, the screen that like rotated and like and just flipped out. I remember I was mind blown by that. I think my brother had it. And it's crazy to think from that
Oh no,
point.
sorry, dude. Sorry. I didn't have a sidekick. I had one of those NV2s, NV whatever. Do you know
Yeah,
what I'm talking about?
probably it's one of those generic ass like just keyboard phones. Yeah.
Keyboard phone. Yep.
I had one of those at one point too,
Yeah.
before I got an iPhone. I didn't get an iPhone till like a couple generations of them.
See, like the Razor was the coolest thing. It was like that and a BlackBerry. Those were the cool phones. But I'm sorry to interrupt your story. Continue.
No, so yeah, I mean, I remember thinking it was just so amazing, and I only was seeing the benefits of it, like everyone else. Everyone else saw it, and it is amazing. It's not like let's not take that away from the iPhone. It's absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
Like the feats of the smartphone are absolutely astonishing.
How about the internet, dude? Like that was an invention. That was an idea that someone had.
What's remarkable is that within our parents' lifetime, they grew up without that being part of their culture in their teenage, at least for most of us, I assume, for most of their development. That was not even we're like the first generations where the internet is really an integral part of our development. And so we're sort of leading an experiment because what's happening, and I think there's a lot of good coming from it. Don't get me wrong. I think the internet is largely a very good thing. But like you said, and it's very banal at this point, everyone's talking about, oh my God, social media is like sucks, dude. Yeah, I know, I get it. But I'm just saying, like, put your phone away. I,
Why are you laughing?
I hate to be this guy. I hate the guy that's just like, dude, put your phone away. Just enjoy your own being. Like
I know what you mean because I'm the girl that has to say like, "Oh, I don't have an Instagram." Like I'm that girl now.
it's like, oh wow, you're so brave.
Wow, look at you. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, you know what? I am cool. Like I don't waste my fucking time.
No, you're right. And if anything is if there's anything I've learned from being in social isolation for the last year, I think it's just that your whole mental construct of like a friend circle, it's just a bunch of it's like a comfort mechanism that your brain uses, and you should never pander to the opinions of other people. And I think it's really important to.
Maybe you don't have very good friends. You don't have to pander.
See, it's not a, yeah, I mean, yes, I agree with that. I think some renovations could be done on my social circle.
Yikes.
Um, I think there definitely could be some renovations there.
I'm gonna take this shot now.
Yes, please do. It's been too long. That's a non-alcoholic shot for Paulina.
It was just water, actually.
It was water and it was Purell. She's drinking Purell to avoid COVID.
Yep.
Because she's conscious of her health. It's funny because during this whole pandemic process, I was able to see how people acted in a pandemic, how all of my friends acted during a pandemic.
Really? During the pandemic, you got to see how people acted in a pandemic? That's crazy.
Can I rephrase that, please?
Sure.
During this pandemic, I was able to see how my friends reacted in a time of crisis.
Mm-hmm.
And I was mostly disappointed. Like,
What do you mean?
in the heat of COVID, I had to delete Snapchat. Like,
Why?
just like go on Snapchat. I would just see like COVID is spreading, people are dying, and I would just see people at parties, like my friends, and they'd be at parties, like taking shots with people. And I got this overwhelming urge to just hit them in the head because I was
Because
like,
you weren't invited to the parties?
because I wasn't there. And because I wasn't getting wasted with them.
Mm-hmm.
It disappointed me in a lot of ways. And but that's all. I'm biased because I sort of have,
Actually, like doing a quarantine, like you saw nobody.
so I've been sort of running
Because that's a little bit fucked up, I think. But okay, sorry, continue.
okay, so I've been running sort of like an experiment on myself over the last year.
Boy. Okay.
It's good though.
All right.
It's good though. Because what I've realized, it's basically the whole sort of topic of the experiment is social isolation.
How long can I go without killing myself?
Basically that could be the title of the abstract of the experiment. However, my experiment has just been, by nature, I feel like mostly everyone unanimously is kind of scared of being alone, right? Like that it's pretty scary. Most people avoid being alone at all costs. Like you'll pretty much do anything. It's actually amazing what people will do to avoid being alone. People will date people for years. People get married. People will have children with someone just to avoid being alone.
You
And
think that people get married just to avoid being alone?
yes,
Really?
absolutely.
Okay, I have a follow-up question for you afterwards.
Okay. I think a lot of people get married prior to them not necessarily self-actualizing, but prior to when they even that's not a word, even get comfortable with their own identity. People before they kind of understand themselves, people are immersing themselves in relationships and
Do you
getting.
think do you think you can't learn about yourself in a relationship?
No, no, I don't. If you have a healthy relationship, if you have a healthy relationship where you're both mature enough to respect each other's lives and respect each other's identities and not try to fuse each other's identities and almost own each other. I
Yeah.
think that's an important aspect of having a healthy relationship. And if you do have a healthy relationship as such, I think yes, it's possible to self-actualize, of course, and figure out who you are. I don't think those are two mutually exclusive things. That being said, I would wager to guess that the majority of relationships, especially amongst young people, are tenuous at best. And
That's
they're
the point. You can't meet the love of your life, your perfect person on the first try. You have to like fuck it up, break up, get your heart broken. That is also part of self-actualization.
Or you could, for a stint of time, whether it be set or sort of not set and sort of abstract, see if you can entertain yourself and figure out how to be comfortable being alone.
Yes.
How to actually
Yes.
genuinely. I'm not talking about like, oh my God, I'm feeling great. I'm talking about really being stable by yourself without anyone else. You don't have, there's no one that's texting you, nobody.
Well, hold on. You can, so okay, so you kind of explained like that's your experiment. You're trying to see if you can be a self-sufficient human being like without a relationship, without like necessarily having the comfort of the safety net of like another person, right?
Yeah. I'm
But
trying to achieve maximal stability without, like you said, the safety net of another person. Yes.
but do you think I do agree with you that it's important for somebody to have that experience of like being alone for a period of time, even if it's, I mean, everybody's different. Some people need a long time to be alone to, and some people, it can be, they really thrive when it's like they're alone for a little bit. Like, I don't know, like maybe you have a boyfriend, but or a girlfriend and you like live in separate houses. So like you'll see each other all day and then you'll like go your separate ways and like that's your like perfect time to like reflect and all that stuff. But isn't there, I think there is kind of like a sweet spot between like you can't always be in a relationship, right? We see those like girls especially and like guys where they're in this, they're just hopping around into a relationship from relationship and you kind of like it's a little bit of a futile exercise, but you also can't be that like, you know, computer science person who's never been in a relationship. They've never been with anyone. Like they've always been alone. It has to be somewhere in between.
Okay. So I think personally, I'm in a sort of weird subset of a category really because throughout most of my youth outside of middle school, so on the tail end of middle school is when I started chasing girls as sort of the forefront of my identity.
What about friends? I think maybe friends are also part of that kind of like safety net. Even though you say like your friends aren't your childhood friends that you had aren't like didn't turn out to be your people in the end, but I think that experience you have with like making friends, how many friends did you have, like all that thing that also plays into like your little relationships, your crushes, all that.
Okay, yes, I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying. Just let me. So I think I have a unique perspective in the sense that I have a lot of relationship experience at the age I'm at. I've been in relationships for essentially 8 years. 8 years out of, I'm 23, and 8 years of basically my adolescence were in a relationship, two relationships.
Not in a row though, or all
Uh,
together. Like
Basically in a so I mean it was like one right after the other. It was sort of going into high school, I got into one, it lasted most of my high school. Then at the end of high school, I got into one, it lasted all of college. And then that's when it ended, essentially. Your role, what is your
when did we met in like
You met at the very tail end of my second relationship.
junior year, sophomore year?
No, we met like senior year.
We met senior year.
We met, yeah, and we really only knew each other like,
Oh yeah, I was living with Christian. That was senior
yeah.
year.
Yeah, we didn't meet till late. You met me at the tail end of my last relationship.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Yep.
So that being said, I learned a lot about myself in a relationship, which is important. I learned a lot about how I get as a relationship deepens.
And how do you get? What did you learn about yourself, to be more specific?
What I learned about myself is I let me parse this correctly. Hold on. So I learned that obviously when you get in a relationship, it's the greatest thing ever. When it starts, it's incredible. It's amazing. There's no better feeling, and that's debatable, but I would wager to guess that top three feelings in this reality are, one of them is getting in a fresh relationship. It's like it's ecstasy, and it's great. It's fantastic. It's a drug. And then so usually like 2 years is the gestation period of infatuation. And that might be a stretch. That might be a little bit of a stretch. But after 2 years goes by, this is when your personalities really start, the discrepancy of your personality really starts to get amplified. And if you have, this is, so it's like you're starting on the surface, right? And as time passes, you're getting deeper. You're getting deeper and you're getting deeper, and you're hoping, you got your fingers crossed, right? That as you keep getting deeper into this core, things are going to be aligned between you and your partner. Things are, your value systems, your desires in life, your things are going to be relatively aligned and harmonious in some sense. And I think as you get deeper and deeper, your dissonance, the things that disagree with each other, gets amplified. It gets amplified more and more as time progresses. And the thing is, you have to weigh out the pros and the cons. And I think bad aspects of each individual start to rise to the surface, whatever they may be, stubbornness, you name it, whatever bad quality, which everyone has, no one's perfect, rises to the surface. It's either going to be make or break, essentially, and it's up to you to decide whether or not, based on your value system, you want to stay in a relationship or you want to end it. And I think in a lot of cases, not in every case, in my case specifically, I weighed out the pros and the cons, and I think I need to be alone. I don't think this is, if I'm thinking about my own personal self-actualization, in other words, manifesting what I find to be meaningful in my
That's
own life.
what you were thinking about in middle school to high school?
This is what I was thinking about. In my first relationship, it was just whatever. I mean, I remember she like lied to me or some bullshit, and
First relationship is a mess.
yeah, it was just chaos. And the second relationship was definitely more mature. And I have no malice towards my second girlfriend in any way. She was great. She's amazing. She's fantastic, genuine human, lovely girl. But at the end of the day, when I thought of myself going throughout my life and self-actualizing for however I define that, I thought it's just, I don't think it's going to work for me.
What made you say that though? What was it that, how do you realize that this person isn't going to fit into your life?
I think just everyone views the world through their own lens, and everyone has a lens with a unique curvature, let's say. And I think there was some discrepancy that I saw and I felt, and I think it really came down to our passions and what we enjoy in life. And it just wasn't aligning. What she thought was a day well spent, I thought another thing was a day well spent. And it just, at the end of the day, that discrepancy in personality that doesn't get illuminated until year 4, maybe. It doesn't get illuminated. It becomes amplified. And you have to, when you're young, you have to really come to terms. A lot of people, first of all, there's so many people on this planet, and we all meet someone and we get comfortable with them, and they're great and it's awesome. But I think in a lot of people's minds, it's like, it's very parochial. It's very like, this is my loved one and this is who I'm meant to be with, and we sort of get delusional in a lot of ways. And I think it's okay to say, I really enjoyed my relationship with you. I loved it. However, I just think at this point in our lives, we'd be better off, both of us, going in our own directions, and just because I feel it converging on something that isn't good. Like this is sort of this was my thought process. It's hard to articulate this.
No, yeah, it
I
makes sense.
don't want to get too personal. I don't want to I don't want to say, but what I can say is that I felt something was converging on a lifestyle that it wasn't going to work for me. For someone else, it could have completely worked. I'm very odd. I'm a weird person. I know that. I have weird interests. I enjoy doing things that a lot of other people don't enjoy. In my mind, I thought, why should I settle for something which I don't think is right for me? It just didn't, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I think she has a new boyfriend, and I'm genuinely happy for her. Like it feels good to say that, because I'm really happy she has a boyfriend and she's happy, because that's exactly what I want. I'm not saying that.
Where's your boyfriend? So what okay, so you guys break up and it was like your it was hard for a while, but in the end you're like feeling good about it. You're on your own paths. What makes you, I mean, I know you've been studying for your MCAT and all that stuff, but why not, why are you it seems like you're very uninterested. You don't give a lot of people a chance. And I noticed that in our like when we were in college together, which it seems like I've known you for longer, but when we would like go to classes and like a cute girl would start talking to you and then you'd talk to her for like a little and then you'd be like, well, yeah, she's
Okay, so first of all, I have this mental construct in my head. Whether it's delusional or not, I don't know. However, it seems pretty convincing. And what the mental construct is that I'm trying to get better at the things that I appreciate about myself. Because I think at the end of the day, all you have is yourself. You don't have someone else. Putting your happiness in someone else is inherently a dangerous thing to do. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to invest. I'm investing in myself. And I'm taking this time while I'm young and my brain is still kind of malleable, right? There's still some neurogenesis going
yeah,
on.
but you can't mold your own self. Like how you said, the whole point of a conversation is that you get input from somebody else and the
But
most
here's the thing. Let me
yeah,
pause. Let me stop you there.
okay.
I don't think that's true. I think you can absolutely mold yourself. I think it you
You can, but not like not in all of the ways because in some ways you are blind to yourself. Like there are things that you don't notice about yourself. Like you can't we can't be fully aware of ourselves or else we go crazy.
okay, so you're familiar with the ego, the id, the ego, and the superego, right?
Super
So
ego, I forget what that is.
So the superego is basically your higher brain power awareness of it's essentially like existential thought. It's basically your awareness of your ego and I'm aware that I have an ego and I'm aware that I do things to boost my ego and I'm
And
aware.
id is the one where those are your primal desires.
Yes, it is like your monkey brain. It is your id is essentially your limbic system controlling your behavior. I want to have sex. I want to eat. I want to have fun. That's your limbic system.
Yep.
Your ego generally will try to boost your limbic system. Your ego will generally do everything it can to boost your limbic system.
How is it different from id?
Your ego is like logical thought. It's sort of like your prefrontal cortex planning, um, more advanced human level thought.
Hmm.
Your super ego is like your parent. Your super ego is the parent of your consciousness, and it uses sort of a bird's eye view on your consciousness, and it says your being. It comments. It's your inner voice saying, "I shouldn't be doing this.
Yep.
This is irresponsible." Right? I don't think super ego is the ceiling. I think you can have a super ego square and tertiary and quaternary and you name it, n to n value. You can be aware of your own consciousness, creating your own biases. And the more you're aware of it, the more you can control it and avoid polarity in either direction. So you can avoid going crazy essentially as long as you're aware. As long as you're aware that you're a weird human under the control of your limbic system and under the control of of your neurotransmitters and hormones, and they're trying to manipulate your thought process. If you're aware of that, if you're aware of the neuroscience behind your behavior, you can manipulate it and you can control yourself on some level. And I can really vouch for that, because over the last, I've been actually making a point to socially isolate myself over the last year. Like whenever my friends hit me up, I mean, I've deleted social media, I've deleted everything. I'm trying not to just, I'm trying to completely be present in my own body and learn things about myself. Here's what's happened. At first, it was hard. It's like when you first start a diet, you start eating less, and it sucks. You hate yourself. You want to eat. You just would do anything to eat something. I felt like that. I felt like I really wanted Snapchat on my phone so I could just open it and whatever, just fucking talk to someone. I let the weeks pass by. And eventually you have to entertain yourself or you're going to go crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to find some way to entertain your own thoughts. So I'm passionate about music. I like music. I like playing instruments. And so that's what I went to. And that's sort of the goal of what I'm trying to get better at music. And it's been extremely effective. It's been so effective. I think it's one of the best things I've ever done, because I wake up and my whole I'm going to say dopamine. And I know a lot of people misuse this word. My whole dopamine currency economy has been shifted. It used to be like, I need social interaction to make me X happy, however happy it would make me. I need to hang out with friends. I need to hang out with a girl, whatever.
Dude, I think there was never, at least in the time that I've known you, it's always been the music for you. It's never been people. You never seemed like super interested in people.
I think I got it out of my system. I really, in high school, early college, I think I got, mainly like late high school, I think that was something valuable that I did. I think I got a lot of those urges.
What urges?
Social urges like getting a girlfriend who I thought was very attractive, getting, doing things which I initially as an adolescent put on a pedestal, like getting in relationships, getting friends, doing whatever. I did it, and I felt it. I did the things I wanted to do. And I'm not trying to like toot my own horn or whatever.
No, you're not.
I'm just saying I got a lot of that out of my system. And I don't want to reference this stupid health scare I had, but I had one health scare where I got really sick, and I was a hypochondriac at the time. I was delusional. I thought I was dying, like viscerally. I thought I was dying. And
was this the vertigo thing where you had the crystal?
I woke up in the middle of the night. Yeah, I couldn't see straight. I fell down. I vomited.
Dude, I think about that story all the time. I think about that all the fucking time. I'm like, I could get a calcium crystal and then just be fucked. And I live alone. I wouldn't even be able to get to the phone.
It's scary. It's definitely a scary. To give you an idea of how bad.
Explain what it was. Explain what it was in case 0 people watch this.
So to make a preface to this story, I was a hypochondriac. I still am on some level.
We all, yeah.
A hypochondriac is essentially, I'm sure most of you know what this means, most of these 2 people watching it. But a hypochondriac is someone there's somatic symptom disorder, and then there's illness anxiety disorder. Basically, I have kind of a mix of both, where I felt like this, I would feel sensations in my body and feel like I was dying. It's a mental disorder. It's like an anxiety disorder.
Yeah.
Runs in my family. I had it. And so usually, like, you'll get headaches for a couple of days and think you have a brain tumor, that kind of thing. Now, usually benign symptoms will elucidate these just crazy thoughts in your head about the fact that you're going to die. That's what a normal hypochondriac experiences. However, one summer night, one Wednesday night, it was a nice night. It was a nice, beautiful summer day. I went out to eat with my mom. I got tacos. I remember vividly. I remember the whole day. And we dressed up for it. I remember I dressed in like a suit. It was nice. It was a nice day. And I went to bed pretty normal, nothing abnormal about the night. And I wake up in the middle of the night and my whole world was just spinning rapidly. Like if you've ever played Dizzy Bat or spun around as a child a bunch of times, it was like that times 10. Very bizarre. So I sat up abruptly, as anyone would, and I was looking around. I was like, okay. I remember staring at my TV, my black TV. Nothing was on it. I was just this like stabilize, please stabilize, please go, like just go to normal. Whatever the fuck this is, just return to normal. No, it just intensified. It was crazy. It was insane. I get up to walk to my bathroom so I can look in the mirror. I thought I was walking straight and my face just hits the floor. I had no sense of what was up, what was down, what was left, what was right. Everything, my whole sense of where my body was in space was gone. It was completely gone. So I'm crawling into my bathroom. I vomit because it's like it's a crazy experience. And I remember I looked in the mirror in my eyes, nystagmus. Nystagmus is when your eyes, it's a vestibular ocular reflex. No one cares. But the point is, your eyes basically go back and forth. And I remember seeing that and being like, what the fuck is happening? Oh my God, I'm dying. I didn't know about calcium crystals forming in your vestibular cavities. This wasn't something I was well versed in prior to this experience. So I thought brain tumor, aneurysm. My brain has AIDS. That's not a good joke. That's stupid. I'm sorry. Everyone has AIDS. That sucks, and I really apologize.
No one with AIDS is watching this, I promise.
So I ended up screaming for my mom. We called 911. An ambulance came, and on that ambulance ride there to the hospital, vomiting blood, which I don't know why it was blood. That's a long story. I didn't think I was going to die. I was 100% sure of it. And at this point in my life, I was in a relationship for 4.5 years. I was pretty comfortable in my life. I was happy.
First girlfriend, right? Because this was high school.
This was second girlfriend. This was college. This wasn't that long ago at all. This was like kind of right before we met, honestly.
Yeah.
And I remember what I thought. And I was convinced I was dying. I was convinced I would be dead within the next few hours. And I know that sounds crazy, but I was. And I honestly think you might have felt the same way in my position. In what I was thinking in that moment in the ambulance, as I couldn't see it all. I was completely in an abysmal mental state. What mattered to me wasn't really my relationship in a weird way. I thought like, oh, this is really unfortunate, but it was weirdly A, peaceful, B, I was thinking about the mark I left in just my life. And that's really it. I can't say there was more thought to it than that. It was like a weird peace, and I wasn't overly sad about a relationship or like leaving someone or whatever. And so after the whole experience, it turns out it was just some weird crystal that formed in my ear that gave me this weird vertigo. It's either that or a brain tumor, and it wasn't a brain tumor. And after that, I sort of, I mean, as everyone says that thinks they have a life or death experience, or actually has a life or death experience, it sort of made me realize what mattered to me. And a lot of that had to do with just bettering myself and not focusing so much of my attention and energy on just harboring relationships with other people. Although I think that still matters, I've made the forefront of my desire to just self-improvement, do the things I really enjoy doing.
You mentioned making a mark. What mark do you make? Because all this self-improvement, right? It has to lead up to somewhere. You can't just be improving yourself and then you don't even give it to another person. Like if it's for you, if you're improving for you, then don't you have a goal in mind of like, what do you want to do?
Yes.
What is your mark that you're going to leave?
So I've been just really working on music and getting better in every way that I can with
Does
music.
that interfere with your desire and your studies and everything that you put into being a doctor? Because you are taking the MCAT at some point. That is, like we've talked about, in your future.
No, I think it complements it. I think it's not one or the other. It's both, and I think both complement each other in a weird way. Like music is nothing, art is nothing without life experience. You need life experience to make good art, I think because art is a reflection of experience. I think art is a fingerprint of the psyche. I think art is
But you don't have to go to medical school to have life experience.
no, you of course you don't. It's
You've
more
made really good music and you haven't been to medical school yet. So
okay, thank you. But also I there's I have a weird, I mean, I'm calling it a weird psyche. There's a couple things in this world that I'm interested in. One is obviously music. The other is the human body, what we are. That's what fascinates me. And when I think of, first of all, the music industry in general is not, it's not a stable, or to go into the music industry with as a career path is very risky. I mean, like what it's there's a lot of luck involved. There's a lot of variables involved. There's a ton of things out of your control.
but if someone picked you, if someone was ready to sign you, would you go? Would you drop your medical school endeavors and go?
It really does depend. Like
It's a
if
it's a theoretical scenario. Like if you had the opportunity to just do music, would you just do music?
it was a legitimate opportunity where something happened and like something caught a lot of traction and I got a lot of attention for it, whatever. Yeah, sure. I mean, I would try it. Why not? I mean, why not?
Yeah, medical school will still be there, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing really preventing me from in the future doing that. I love doing both things. And here's the thing. I think in our heads a lot of the time we think whatever the thing we love to do is, whether I don't whatever your hobby is, whatever your passion is, it's like the utopia idea of your life is if you could just do that all the time, right? Like whatever your passion is. If it was art, let's say it's art, for you, your utopia might just be being able to make art all the time.
Definitely not. I don't always feel like making art.
Right, exactly. So that's the thing. It's the same thing with music. You can always practice music and get better. You can get better at the mechanics of everything you do. But it's different from making art. Art comes and goes. It comes and goes. The inspiration for it comes and goes. So in my mind, I need something to counterbalance it. And I fetishize emotion. And that's a weird, I fetishize feeling strong emotion. And
So
I
does
look
everybody though. That's like a fetish for everybody. Who doesn't
at
want it?
emotion though,
Hmm?
like negative emotion. I fetishize sadness.
I understand. I mean, you're an artist. Every artist kind of loves being sad because that's when we create our best stuff or whatever. It's so much harder to make things when you're happy, and I think that's so fucked up.
It is fucked up in a way, but I think it's great in a way. Like, do you notice how when you're happy and you listen to some music, it generally doesn't hit you as viscerally?
It
Like,
does. It does hit me so viscerally. I just can't create anything when I'm happy.
hmm, okay, let me rephrase that. When I'm in a certain mental state, a lot of times if I'm like very emotional over something, music just hits me differently. It's like an entirely different entity. It's like
But if you notice when you're sad versus when you're happy, you listen to different music.
right, of course. And I think there needs to be music for both things. I love making music when I'm happy, and I also like
Have you ever cried to like a techno song? Because that is an experience. I feel like if I can cry, sometimes I do cry to techno songs, and when that happens, I'm like, I'm very much sad right now. Like that's a that's
Yeah,
a
no.
really big dissonance, and that's like, okay, you have an issue.
Yeah, you know, you might have like diagnosable mental issues, but that being said, I think that's good. It's beautiful. I love the idea. What I love about music is like in the basic rudimentary stuff like I've posted online, just testing the waters, so to speak. You can see who's listening. Like you can see who listens to your stuff.
On SoundCloud, right? Not
Yeah,
on.
like with SoundCloud. And I remember seeing that some girl in Tokyo, Japan, listened to it 20 times during the day that I checked. And to me, that was like, that's so crazy to me. That's so amazing. Just the fact that whatever, I have no idea what this girl's life is, but she's in Tokyo, Japan, somewhere in Tokyo, and in her headphones is some bullshit I played into a computer for 30 minutes, just inebriated on a Saturday in college. I just played it into my stupid laptop and I was like, whatever, post. And some girl in Tokyo, Japan that's like the soundtrack of her day. And to me, that illuminates the entire reason why I love like music creation so much. Because you can just create something, just something you think is stupid, and someone across the globe, it might mean something to them. They might hear it and think, that resonates with me so much that, and it brings to the surface emotions in a therapeutic way to them maybe. And
So you do clearly like care about people. How can you say that other people play no part in your
but that
journey?
thing that those are the people.
The
It's not.
people that, you know what I think? I think we, me and you, maybe other people, but me and you specifically, we romanticize people we don't know. I am so attracted to strangers. And then as I get to know people, I'm like, you're so disgusting. Like, you're not the person that I made up in my head at all. Strangers are so beautiful, and real people are so ugly. And that's also beautiful.
Yeah, no, that's well said, well put. And I've never put words to that thought, but yeah, that's accurate. I think the idea, the less you know about someone, the more beautiful.
Yes.
But again, there's another kind of beauty. There's another kind of beauty when you get to know someone, um, because you see the flaws, and
I've
there's
actually I've talked to my friend Michelle about this. She works in a mental hospital, and we were talking about like when you're in a relationship and you know how people say like, oh, this is the perfect person to me for me because they don't like have flaws to me. Their flaws are perfect to me. Their flaws make them more perfect. And we were talking about this and we were like, I think that might be bullshit. I think flaws are flaws, and you can either deal with them in the other person or you can't. They either mix well with your flaws and your strengths or they don't. Flaws are flaws. Flaws don't make you perfect. They make you flawed.
I think you said it earlier. Without ugliness, there's no beauty, right? So like you need the opposite to exist simultaneously. And I think to appreciate beauty, you need ugliness. And there can't be one without the other.
Yep.
So I think in a relationship, you need some ugliness there, because that's what makes you appreciate the beauty in someone. You know what I'm saying? But like you said, I think I sort of fetishize the idea of communicating with people I don't know and people who I'll never know, and people like more
You're
people.
communicating with them in such an indirect way. I think that is also part of it, that you're not saying anything. And I think that maybe is what you were trying to elaborate on with the Neuralink. Like, you don't necessarily have to say words to communicate with someone. Someone in Tokyo listening to a song that you made is crazy. You had a moment in your life that meant something to you or didn't, something that was completely stupid that you were like, this is so dumb. And then somebody in Tokyo is now like in that moment with you. And maybe they're not understanding that it was that moment, particularly maybe for to them, the song means something completely different than what you meant, but you didn't even say a word. It's like sex too. Sex is wordless communication. You're something is happening, but you're not saying anything. There
Yeah.
are so many different avenues of communicating without words.
Yeah, no, yes. This is a good topic because I think a lot about this. The idea of language, because there's so many different languages. There's so many different languages and they each have their own unique benefits and downsides. And spoken language is by no means everything. It's one way of communication, and it's a pretty narrow way of communication. It's a pretty ambiguous way of communication. Music, I think, visual arts, that's a way of communication. Music, that's a big way of communication of things that can't really be
Misunder-
explained.
I think misunderstandings are part of what make communication beautiful. Like with art, with music, it means something to the artist who made it, and it means something completely different to the person who's listening to it. That's why I don't like to watch music videos. That's why I don't know. I Miscommunication is also a beautiful thing. And if we have Neuralink and we have no miscommunications ever, it's too perfect. It's so perfect that it's not beautiful anymore.
Agreed. Here's the thing. Imagine you're a caveman or a cave woman, right?
I feel like every time I talk to you, you
That's
say this phrase. You're always doing some sort of caveman,
the
cavewoman.
mental exercise that's effective.
Okay, yeah, but continue. I
Rubbing sticks together, they're getting pretty hot, and all of a sudden, what happens? Some weird, crazy light pops up, and you don't know what the fuck it is. We know it is fire, and it pops up, and what do? You're gonna stick your hand in it, maybe. And what is it gonna do? It's gonna burn the shit out of your hand. It burns it. So what are you gonna conclude? What is gonna be your conclusion about whatever that light source is? It's evil and it hurts me, right?
Well, it can be two different things at once because maybe it was dark and it was cold and you made this thing and the second before you put your hand in it, it was bright and warm, but then you put your hand in it and it's like it's two different things at the
Right.
same time.
But you're reinforcing what I'm saying. What I'm saying to you is that things don't necessarily have to exist in one way. If we concluded that fire kills you and that's all it does, then we would be stuck in the Stone Age. Right? So if we conclude that Neuralink only does one thing and that's destroy human communication, then we're going to be stuck in the age we're in.
Yes, I totally agree. I just wish, and Neuralink does really cool things. One of the things that they said that was really amazing to me was that it could give back movement to people who are paralyzed.
An
That you
obvious necessary application.
Amazing, amazing. But I wouldn't want it, I don't want this to be the new cell phone.
Agreed. I mean, agreed. I think it should be used very carefully, and I think it should be used at the highest level, the forefront of thought. Like when with people that need that where it necessitates communication of an idea with
Wait,
perfect fidelity.
can we go back to that thing that you said about something having two meanings at once? Do you think that I, for some reason, have this like fascination with dimensions? I have this theory,
Like spatial dimensions, you mean?
like dimensions that are there, but we don't perceive exactly. Like, for example, you and I are talking right now, and we are experiencing kind of like the same thing. Like you're looking at me, I'm looking at you. Like this is kind of like our little sphere. But at some point, I'm gonna hang up. You're gonna hang up. You're gonna go back to your life, and I'm gonna go back to mine. And don't you think that those are two separate dimensions? And like that girl who was listening to your song, the song that you made that you thought was like just a drunken stupid thing, and maybe she listened to it and she found some like deeper amazing meaning in it, and she didn't know that you made it drunk and you thought it was stupid. Doesn't that seem like a whole other dimension to
But
you?
yeah, so I see what you're saying. To me, I think a lot of the ways I think about dimensions are spatially, like the three dimensions, the X, Y, and Z directions. But I think dimensions can mean things that aren't necessarily spatial, and they can apply to things that aren't spatial, like what you're saying. And the idea, I can't wrap my head around the idea of different perspectives and different lives. Like it's, to me, it doesn't compute. Like you can't comprehend the distance to the sun. You can say it's 93 million miles away, but you can't really you can't understand what that means. And like when you think of, I think, yes, what you're saying is beautiful, because everyone has their own perspective, and we're going to hang up and go throughout our lives and want to do whatever we do during the day, and it's gonna, and we're going to be completely ignorant to each other's experience, and sort of, and then at times we communicate with each other, and there's some like cross communication, and like
Yeah.
some melding of information, and like some melding of experience, and then you go back to live your own experience, and then it happens again, and then there's like a, it's sort of a repeating process. And I think it's a beautiful cycle, and I think there's a lot of dimensions. I think there's a lot of dimensions, and I think some people are in tune with different dimensions. I think that's essentially what personality to me is. Like when I think of different personalities, I think what differentiates one personality from another is what dimensions you're tapped into. Like what are you tapped to? What are your,
Yeah, even your interests, like that's a whole, I'm not in the music dimension. Like I don't make music, I listen to it, but that's a whole different experience that I don't know, you know?
right? And that's what I love, that. Like to me, that's what makes it amazing to me. Just the fact that everyone has different perspective on things, and some people you just say you don't agree with their perspective at all. But to me, that's what's great, is like the whole concept of like a visual dimension, an auditory dimension, a feel dimension, an emotional dimension. I mean, it's really infinite. Like if you think of dimensions as non-spatial,
They totally are not spatial. Like time is
are they? Are
they're
they an axis? Are they an axis on the graph? Yeah,
no, they're just what, like I think every person is living in their own dimension. Every person is their own main character, and we can never truly understand. It's like how they say when you touch something, you're not, I mean, you can feel it and you are touching it in a way, but the molecules of like my finger touching my desk, like they never touch. There's some, like the electrons are, they're both negative on the outside, the valence shell of whatever, they're both negative. So like there's always that microscopic distance. It's
all right.
a little bit lost my train of
We're,
thought there,
we're
but
gonna go down, we're gonna go down a rabbit hole. And you know what? I think let's just go down it.
the first time I had this idea, I was like really little. I was on the playground. I've always been obsessed with like love and not soulmates, but like I've always been obsessed with the idea of like, I'll just give you the example. So I was little and I'm on the playground and I'm lying down on the grass and I'm looking up at the sky and I'm wondering, the person that I marry is a kid right now, the same age as me, maybe a little bit older, and he's like doing something different. He's doing something right now at this moment. Like it's like 12:30, it's a Wednesday, it's like 2004. What is my future husband doing? Like that is, it's lame because, it's a
Have the
little bit
exact
lame,
thought.
but
I vividly remember having the same thought. I thought the girl I'm gonna end up with, married. I probably don't know her. I probably have no idea who she is. She's doing whatever she's doing, and yeah, I remember that. I remember that thought. But the thing is, yeah, I mean, I guess that thought kind of faded, and it's interesting. So we're going off on another tangent, and I don't know if I should sort of pivot back to the tangent we were on. I don't. I kind of like the tangent we were about to go down.
change it up if you have to. I really don't mind. I have The questions that I ask everyone are at the end, and I'll
I,
ask you them.
I got you some questions too.
Okay, perfect.
I mean, I haven't even tapped into my questions yet. I haven't.
I'm
I have
interested to hear yours. What are your
so
questions?
many. It's just a bunch of thoughts.
Go
But
do them after this then.
yeah, okay. So, so you were talking about atoms and how your atoms never really interact with anything. Um, just the nature of sound. Sound, like when we think of what sound is, right? It seems like such a fundamental aspect of our existence. Sound, right? It's so fundamental. It's like vision, sound. It's interesting to think that sound, so we're like fish essentially. Stay with me. The atmosphere, what's the difference between the ocean and the atmosphere? Can you tell me that? What's the difference?
Um, Oxygen perfusion.
Okay, so that's in terms of our physiology.
Oh, sound waves travel slower in water than they do in air.
We travel faster in water,
Faster in water.
but that's a different story. That's a different story. So water obviously is made up of H2O. Air is made up of a few things: oxygen, CO2, nitrogen, whatever. Air is less dense than water, but it's still a liquid. It's still a liquid. Let's
Air
gas
is not a liquid.
liquid. Gas is a liquid.
Gas.
Gas is a liquid.
Gas is not a liquid. Gas is gas.
Gas is a fluid.
There's solid, gas, and liquid, and
Okay.
plasma.
What's the difference between a gas and a liquid?
Gas expands much more than a liquid does. A liquid fills its container.
Gas is a less dense form of a liquid. However, its physics are almost identical. You wave your hand through a fluid, you wave your hand through a gas.
Not really, because the gas particles are so much more, they're so much more dissipated and further apart. That is the main difference, that gases will expand and be far from one another.
There's first of all, in my hand right now, there's more atoms of gas than you can comprehend. There's more atoms of gas than you can remotely comprehend. It is a very much so a liquid. It is a fluid. Gas is a fluid. When you study fluid dynamics, you are studying gas and you are studying liquid. Gas is a less viscous form of a liquid, and you can look that up. This is a searchable thing. Gas is considered by physicists to be a liquid. I'm gonna let this go ahead. I see the face getting illuminated. Let's Google search it.
Regardless of gravity, a liquid has a fixed volume. In the gas phase, the molecular forces are very weak.
Okay, but before you continue,
Liquids and gas are called fluids because they can be made to flow or move. Okay, you got me. Liquids and gas can be called fluids.
okay, so we're living in a fluid just as a fish is, right? In this fluid, we've as humans have learned that we can manipulate this fluid that we live in. How do we do it? What we do is we create pressure waves. We literally create waves of varying pressure. They're longitudinal waves where there's phases of contraction and dilation of the gas. And this hits this weird structure on our fucking head. And it goes in here, and these pressure waves trigger these little hairs inside of these structures to move a little bit. And we have these wires set up called neurons, right? Which detect how much this hair is moving. And that sends an electrical signal to our head, which interprets how much it was moved by a pressure wave. And we interpret that as sound, right? We can agree on that. So that's what sound is. It's very odd to me that we've figured out a way to manipulate pressure waves in a fluid to such a nuanced extent where we can develop a language. Think about that for a second. All language is us figuring out a way to send out nuanced vibrations to a person next to us in a fluid that hits their ears, and their ears can tell them the difference in vibrations, and you translate that into
Well, it's not just your ears. you're only able to figure out what someone is saying to you because you've developed concepts for it. You grew up and you.
Right. But those concepts would be nothing without your ears. Your ears are the
Well,
sensor.
no, because there are people who are deaf, they do sign language, they have concepts built around their like whatever motions. It's visual, it's very much visual, but they can still communicate. The concept of a bottle, they can probably, I mean, I don't know the sign for bottle, but
I believe that's the sign. Yeah. I get what you're saying, but that's kind of
left of what you were saying. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
so what I'm saying is it's miraculous to me, like when you consider right now what's happening. I'm talking, I'm sending out pressure. My vocal cords are clapping together, right? Like a girl twerking, like her ass.
Okay.
You can edit that out, right? And
I'll
my
keep
vocal, my vocal cords are sending pressure waves into the air that hit this laptop, hit a sensor on this laptop. This laptop transfers those pressure waves into electrons moving down a wire, which gets sent into whatever this software is that integrates that transmission, sends it to your.
That is the crazy part to me. I always wondered how, like on CDs, you put a CD in, you put in a vinyl record, your phone has like these songs on it. How does that even happen? How do you put sound waves into a conformed thing?
Right. It's things we take for granted that are so. If you were a caveman and someone, and someone handed you a record player and you were handed a disc and you were like, what is this object? And you just put it and you put a pin on it and all of a sudden music starts coming out. You would
They
shit.
wouldn't, but here's the thing, they don't have the concept for music like that. Like, for example, in Indonesia or other like countries, in America, there are certain chord progressions that we recognize, and that's like good music to us. Other countries, I'm sure you know this, they have different chord progressions. Like their chord
Great. This is a great point
progressions,
here. Oh, this is a great. I like this. Go ahead.
their chord progressions for like a happy song, when we listen to it, we might perceive it as sad. We completely misunderstand the whole thing. So I think a lot of visual or um, auditory like stimulus, the only reason we understand it is because of concepts, because of where we grew up, because of what we learned this thing, whatever it is, means.
Yes, I think the differences in music between cultures is fascinating. Like Middle Eastern music, it's unanimously they use this.
Dude,
this
I have been listening to so much like Middle Eastern music, Israel, like
really,
I've been listening to Egyptian music. It's
really,
weird how much I'm into it.
that's fascinating. That's really interesting. What do you like about it?
That I don't understand the words, but I kind of get what the song is. Like I just like, okay, for example, the difference between Egyptian and Israeli music. Israeli music is, because if you listen to them singing like their pop songs, I just basically, I mean, I'm not Egyptian, or I don't really live in Israel. Like I
Oh,
don't know
Egyptian?
their.
I
Hmm?
thought you were Egyptian.
Oh yeah, yeah, maybe in a past life, but
I thought you were full Egyptian. Go
yep.
ahead.
Um, but they if you listen to the songs, the lyrics, like how they sing, the language sounds very similar, and like their inflections are very similar. Like it's all like shit like that. Like it's very like this motion, but with sound. But- and so it almost sounds like they're speaking the same language, even though I know they're not. However, the songs that I hear from Israeli artists, I was listening to a radio station. All of the songs I got were sad. And all of the songs I got with the Egyptian radio station were like, they were like hip. They were so cool. They were so happy. It was like I was at a club.
Hmm. That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, yes. First of all, I love the fact that you're exploring foreign music. That's awesome. Because I don't I'm passionate about music and I don't even do that.
I
So
just
that
haven't been able to find, like, I get so bored with my music. I'm like listening to the same shit all the time. I don't even know where to go to explore new artists anymore. And so I started listening to this radio station called Shisha Lounge. on Spotify, and then yeah, Shisha Lounge, and then it transgressed into like Egyptian music, and then like I even started listening to like Bollywood music, and I tried to listen to Russian music, and I understand what they're saying, and it's really fucking stupid. Like it's not good.
Send me some Russian music because I'm too curious. I've been listening to a lot of jazz and
Did you
really,
take that class with me?
so I remember we would relate over this class. I initially hated that class. The benefits of that class were latent. They were latent
History
benefits.
of jazz.
Yes, that class, I didn't like the structure of it, but over this, honestly, this year of solitude, I've been listening to a lot of jazz, and it's really one of the main only aspects that is unique to American culture. Like when you think of American culture is kind of vacuous. A lot of it's borrowed. A lot of it's a
Is
lot of it.
jazz borrowed?
No, no, jazz is very much so an
Wasn't a
American.
lot of it given to us by the Black community? Like, I
Yes,
mean, I know
but
that's
I mean, yes. Okay, so it derived from slavery. There's no, and you could consider that borrowed, yes, but it's a unique circumstance where there were African Americans enslaved going through a very unique emotional situation, and they had to find an outlet, and their slave owners got amusement out of it. They found there was a lot of admiration for African American music by slave owners, which is interesting. They would take them to New Orleans. New Orleans was the HQ of the origins of jazz. They take slaves to a place called Congo Square, and they'd have them perform like very sort of, it's African style music, obviously very percussive, but there's some nuance to it that came from a unique American circumstance, and that developed into jazz, and it's very avant-garde. It takes all the mental constructs we had of music and it destroys them, and it's beautiful in that sense because it's so important. It teaches so many important lessons about life in general. Being able to take We had this idea of what good music was, classical music throughout history. It had to be pristine and very crisp and very and classical music is beautiful, but jazz takes what we thought we knew about music and effectively shits all over it. Like that's basically what jazz is.
people used to think jazz was dangerous. And you know, like the dancing that people do to jazz, that swing, all that like hip stuff, people would be like, that's evil, like spawn of the devil, like you can't do that. And even when Elvis was around, hmm?
Go ahead. When people hate something, it's a sign that you're doing something right.
Yeah. But
According.
even with Elvis's music, people were like, this is so wrong. You're going to hell. Like, how can you be making music like this and like moving your hips this way?
Yeah, yeah, no. I think generally speaking, like whenever you look at the history of anyone that's done anything really remarkable and revolutionary, pretty much unanimously, when they were doing it while they were alive, they were hated for it, and it was something that was scary and foreign and something that people weren't comfortable with. And then only later you realized how good it was. It's kind of interesting. It's kind of interesting how that seems like unanimously that happened to almost
It's a
everyone.
little bit different with artists, painters, things like that. They are or writers. They're mostly ignored, and then people really like them. But it's less like of a hatred. I think music, it's more easy to hate it. Uh, it's a bit more visceral in the moment, and words and pictures kind of hit you a little bit later.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. Let me ask you this question. What do you think constitutes a good painting or a good piece of visual art?
I used to think that modern art was stupid.
Modern art, define modern art.
Like, you know, you go to a museum and it's like a white canvas with a red circle
Yep.
or something like that. Something that you could have painted at home.
Yep.
I used to think that was kind of dumb, but I kind of like it now. it's not that easy. The blank canvas is really scary. And we've talked about this. We read that book. Like blank pages, blank canvases, they're extremely frightening. And it kind of reminds me modern art. It reminds me of, Kanye's album. Remember that album or that song that he put out? Scoop diddy whoop, whoop diddy scoop. Like it's like, was that even a song? Were those even English words? Like I always thought that that song was important because he was essentially saying, "Hey, I can make a song with nonsensical words and a million people will still listen to it. Everybody will still listen to it and they'll talk about it. And there will be a discussion and people will argue about the significance or insignificance or whatever." Like I was like, this is genius. He's like making a statement by making a non-statement. And it's just about sparking conversation. If you look at a piece of art and it doesn't make you feel anything or think anything, if you can't have a disagreement with somebody about it, then I guess actually I'm going to take that back. I think all art is good art. Even bad art is good art. It's all good. There's no such thing as bad art. Even like when you have a kid or a brother or a sister and they draw something like so stupid, but then like I've kept some of my little brother's drawings, like the little monsters that he draws. Like at first you look at it and you're like, this is nothing. And then you keep looking at it and you're like, this could be anything.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that the last stuff you said aligns with how I see it a lot. I used to think there was good and bad art. I used to genuinely believe that. I used to think like some people just aren't good at art, other people's are. And I really think it's an illusion. I think what people perceive as good art is what's the most relatable, like what's the most easily digested. I think that's the most understandable right away. I think that's perceived the most catchy song, the most visually appealing piece of art. It's superficial. I think that's what people perceive as good art. But like you said, art is not a zero sum game. There's no winners, there's no losers, there's no best art, there's no worst art. All art is doing is like Freud said with dreams, dreams are an infallible snapshot of a person's subconscious. And I think art is an infallible snapshot of a person's conscious or subconscious. And I just like dreams are. And I think there's no bad dreams. There's only dreams. There's no good dreams. There's only dreams. And I think there's no good art or bad art. Every art serves its own purpose. Every piece of art serves its own purpose. It's good at what it is.
Even the art that doesn't serve a purpose, like even the art that's just like the song you made that you're like, I'm drunk and this doesn't mean anything to me, it means something to somebody else. I think sometimes art is, there's a quote, it's like art is a reflection of the viewer. Whoever looks at it, whatever you see, that's like a reflection of yourself. Like whatever you perceive out of it, of course it has to be a reflection of yourself. You have nothing else to draw on, you just have your experiences.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question though. And I forgot it. Um, really good.
I'll segue. Hold on. So I find what interesting something about art, like visual art specifically. I I noticed if you just take out a piece of paper and you try not to think at all and draw anything, draw something.
I do that all the time just to practice like my eye. I draw like blobs and I'm like, okay, what do I see?
Right. And if you just draw even a rudimentary picture, I find at least when I do this, I'll take a picture of it on my phone and I'll look at it a week or two later, and I realize that what I drew was just in a weird, indirect way a reflection of what my mental state was. Like I remember what I drew was a road going into the horizon, and I drew a little house, and I just drew a guy in a window, and I drew the guy looking out of the window, and the guy was kind of weird. He kind of looked like he was spending a little too much time alone, and he had one eye bigger than the other, and And I looked at it later and I thought, wow, that's interesting, because I thought I was just doodling. But in reality, I was sort of fingerprinting my psyche in a weird, very weird way. I was making a fingerprint of what my psyche was. And that's what I find beautiful about youth art. And I think that's what a lot of artists find beautiful about youth art, is because it's like really unfiltered fingerprints of the undeveloped psyche. And
I
that's what
think
that
it's less significant than that even. Like I will just draw something so abstract. You don't even see anything in it. It's like some shit like this, and then like you color in random squares and you like, I don't know, here I see like almost like this is a skirt, maybe this is like a face, this is an arm, like it's something like that. You draw something random. There's like some psychological test like this, I forget what it's called. You probably.
yeah. I mean, yeah, I know so I first of all, I don't draw enough to the point where I get to like the point of abstract drawing like that. So that's sort of a different thing, but yes, I see what you're saying. Like, I think that's more of an exercise of creativity, more so than, like, if you really try to just, like, what I meant when I say draw something random is like make a scene.
I can't do that. Whenever I try to draw something, I either need to have a reference. I need to have a reference picture, or else it just doesn't.
You
Or
don't. You don't. You see, I think what you're doing, and I urge you not to put these mental parameters on yourself, because you don't. You don't need that. Just because you think you might not be able to do something creative in a certain circumstance doesn't mean you should bar that from
no,
possible.
I really, it's not like I can draw something without a reference. It's just I want it to look a certain way. You make a you make some beat or something and you listen to it and you're like, this isn't what I want. So you change it, you edit it, you keep editing it until you like it. I'm not gonna like sit there and make art that I don't like.
You know
You
what
know?
I do when I make a beat now? I put, those blindfolds people use when they go to bed. You,
Oh,
of
yeah, I have them. I have that.
course you do. So I don't know what I meant by that. I put one of those on, and like open up like a drum pad or whatever, and I completely shut off my visual senses, and I just completely base what I make off my ears. And I find it's interesting because it sort of takes out this whole aspect of your psyche of like judging. It
You don't
takes
have to look at it though because it's the base, the base like keyboard or whatever. There's like a couple buttons. There's like three buttons on top, three buttons on bottom. So like you kind of remember where everything is, no?
You're right. I mean, that's, if I didn't, I wouldn't be able to do it at all. But what I'm saying is, I think there's a lot of subconscious things that happen when you're allowing your other senses to interject in the creative process.
Okay, I kind of see that. Like sometimes I see musicians like they'll close their eyes when they sing, or like I see you kind of like doing that. Like you'll make a beat, but like you close your eyes. So why not just like put a blindfold on, I guess, at that point.
I just think it purifies the whole thing. With visual art, I don't know how to make a parallel because I'm not
No,
experienced.
I really think it makes sense because when you are using two senses, you have two processing methods. When you're just using one sense, you're processing information in one way. I mean, tactile too, but less so.
Right. To me, everyone has their own creative process, but I guess I don't.
Do you ever black out or something when you're making a song? Or maybe blackout is the wrong word, but like you'll make a song and then you listen to it again and you're like, did I make this? Was that me? You're like almost
After,
surprised.
if I, the thing with making music is you end up hating everything you make. I think it's,
Really?
well, the thing is, you have to listen to it over and over again. And if, I don't care what song you play to yourself over and over again, if you play it enough times, you're gonna hate it. I don't care how much you like the song going into it.
I'm not like that.
I'm telling you, you would be. You can't quite comprehend the amount of times you have to listen to something to make it to completion. I'm
There's
talking
a
hundreds and
song that I've been listening to for like years and years and years of my life, and I mean, I obviously I don't listen to it every day. I think it has to be within a certain time frame because there are songs like that where I've listened to them every day for like every hour of the day.
again, I have those songs too. This is a different thing. When you're editing a song. So one thing I've realized about making music is the actual musical part of it is 60%, I would say. Like the actual aspect of creating music, lyrics, actual chords, melodies, drums, bass, 60% of the whole process. The remaining 40% is how well you can, it's called mixing, audio engineering. And audio engineering is something pretty much everyone is ignorant to that listens to music. They don't realize how big of an aspect it plays in the music they like. Audio engineering is essentially knowing that when you hit a kick drum or any drums, they have a set of sound frequencies that they exist in. And when you have a range of sound, oh God, this is going to get really esoteric quickly, but I don't want it to. Let me just try to make this make sense. You have a range of sound frequencies, right? You have like 10 hertz all the way to 20,000 hertz. 20,000
For
hertz is really
one drum?
no for every. So like this is just the sound range of the human ears.
Okay, yeah,
We're perceptive to from like 10 hertz or whatever to
sure.
like 20,000 hertz. It's a pretty wide range. And when you make a song, this is the real estate you have to create a song. You have the whole the sound frequency range from 10 hertz being really low, almost imperceivable bass, low end, to extremely high, almost imperceivable high end, right? In each instrument, and your voice is an instrument, has its frequencies. So your voice might be like 400 hertz to 1,000 hertz, whatever. Your kick drum might be 100 hertz to 200 hertz. Your bass might be 50 hertz to 100 hertz. And a lot of times, amateurs making music, they don't know this. So they just play everything all together and everything is overlapping and blending together. And someone will listen to it and think, that sounds like shit. They don't know why it sounds like shit, but it sounds like shit. And this is the thing I see so many amateur musicians running into. And the reason is they don't know how to give sounds their own homes in a mix. I can't believe I'm talking about this.
Dude, it makes sense. We've talked about this many times. You've showed me a song and I've listened to it and I've said like this sounds messy. It sounds like it's like things are overlapping. Like you have to have them kind of intertwining instead of overlapping. Kind of like that makes sense. We've had this talk and even I think advanced artists are that's the whole struggle, right? It has to be intertwining rather than overlapping.
right, right. That the thing with professional artists is they audio engineer. There are audio engineers who do that as a career. What they do is they take an artist's song. If you heard most artist songs, by the way, that you hear on the radio today before they got into an audio engineer's
A
hands,
lot of them don't even write their own shit. Somebody
that's
else
a
does.
whole other thing.
So
That's a
yeah.
whole other. But if you heard artists' music before it got into an audio engineer's hands, you'd laugh out loud because it sounds so much worse. I've heard it. It's like
Heard it? How have you heard it?
I know some people that are like relatively well known that make music, and like I'll hear some of their mixes before they're, or you can find them on YouTube. They're like unmastered, unmixed mixes of songs, and it sounds like a kid made it in their garage, and it sounds completely rudimentary. It sounds like you could make something like that, and then you hear the mastered and mixed version, and you go, "Holy fuck!" It's now a total experience that hits me emotionally, and so I'm trying to learn how to do both,
Yeah.
and that's what I've been doing for the last year is learning how to audio engineer a lot. And I found so much beauty in it. It's like an art. It's an art. It's a totally separate art form, and I love it. I
But
really
you
love
used to hate it?
I hated it because I didn't get it. It's confusing. Like when you don't get it, it's so that's the thing. I mean, that's really the thing about anything. When you don't understand something and you're trying to be good at something, it's like it's frustrating and it seems so mystical and abstract. And then you understand it and you're like, oh, that's all it was.
Dude, really quick, just like super quick. I need to pee. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I went to this party and everyone was like, they were like, oh my God, Paulina, you're blonde. Such a big glow up for you. You look way better. I was like, thanks.
Yeah, it's one of those like backhanded compliments, right?
Yep.
That's it. I don't know. I mean, I've never been a big blonde guy. I can say, I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't really discriminate, but it's first of all, I don't really care about hair color. Let me just get that on the table. But also, I've never been like, I feel like a lot of girls assume guys are like solely into blonde girls for some reason.
Well, because it's been proven scientifically, men are more visually attracted to blondes.
I think that's a bunch of bullshit, but
It's
whatever.
really like a study, many studies,
Study? Yeah.
many studies.
Yo, yeah. Okay. Why don't you email, fax me those studies?
I'm not gonna fax them to you. I'm not 50.
Okay. Why don't you telegraph them to me and then I'll glance them over. I don't think that's true. I I think it's very anecdotal. I think kind of archaic almost. I don't think the spirit of the times doesn't seem that way, at least to me right now. I don't think mainstream attractiveness is like. I think that's more of like 1990s, like early 2000s idea of what attractive was, and I didn't agree with that either.
2008, men prefer blondes. 2012, blonde women receive more courtship solicitations. And redhead men receive more refusals.
I mean, whatever. I don't. Me personally, all I can speak for is myself, and I don't really care. I think I'm beyond hair color at this point.
Yeah, I think that is the smart, better answer. I think people who don't have a type are better people.
I mean, I think yeah. I think once you realize that your idea of like a type is just stupid in a way, I mean, you're just closing your options out so much, and it's just
Yeah.
so for what hair color? Like really that's the threshold, like that's how what you're gonna just decide your mate is gonna be based on the color of their hair. Like it's so dumb, it's so dumb.
It is a bit.
I mean, look, I think girls seem to be very
And by the way, I love redheads. Like something about red hair is absolutely magical to me.
redheaded men.
And women. I think redheaded women are so beautiful. Redheaded men are like so, I just love that red hair is so unique.
Yeah, I think there's definitely, I've seen a lot of attractive redheaded individuals, and to be honest, I don't like I don't really separate redheads a lot of the time, unless you're like really redheaded and like to the point where it's really noticeable. Like when I see a redhead, I don't know, in my mind I don't really think. I guess
You hit on my only redhead friend.
that's true. You know what? You do bring up a good point. 'Cause I don't really do that often. Like I'm not really the type of, I mean, I guess that's not really true because I guess I am that type of guy. Um, like
You
just
totally are that type of guy.
to do what? I don't even. I
To
get,
like in the most confident way approach somebody that you think you like. I don't think you're very shy.
but I am at my core, but it's more of like a.
I think maybe when people get to know you, but I think outwardly you're not. Like I really I feel that I'm almost the same way where the less people know me, the more brave I am around them. So like if I see someone random, I can like go up to them and be like, "Hey, like."
Yeah, that was a weird situation. That I just remember she was cute and she was waiting on our table and she was being conversative and
I just think it's so funny and random that you didn't know I knew her. You didn't know she was in that like all girls horse camp. And then like she was literally telling me about this story and you told me about this story and I put it together.
that was odd. I feel like it. I was weirdly I felt a weird gravitational pull to everyone that went to this horse camp that you went
Yeah.
to. And I don't know why. And it's a little disturbing to me. I think
Why does everybody hate horse girls?
because we know something's going on.
What's
Something,
going on?
I don't know. I don't know. Something though. Something is happening at that horse camp that I might be surprised about.
I don't think so. Otherwise, I would also be surprised about it.
There's only so many things to do at horse camp to keep yourself entertained.
There's plenty of things. Shovel manure, move the hay.
Polina went to a horse camp. A camp revolved around horses.
Yeah.
Think about that.
There were like 80 horses on the grounds. And part of the daily routine, you would wake up at like 6 a.m. to feed all of them, and you had to clean the stables, you had to clean the poop, you had to help out in the kitchen, you had no cell phones. The most beautiful thing was like sleeping out, which is when you asked permission of your whoever was in your like cabin, the like grown up, you would ask them if you can sleep out that night. You would take your little sleeping bags, you would go outside, you would lay out in the stars, you would look at the stars. One time me and that girl that you hit on, we slept out once and we saw a UFO, and every time you sleep out, you wake up in the morning at like earlier than everybody else because you're covered in dew. It's disgusting, but it's like great at the same time.
Okay, that does sound pretty nice. I'm not gonna lie, that's pretty nice. Okay.
I might have asked you this before, but for the people, for you, myself, and my mother, if you were the opposite gender for a day, what would you do?
I mean, I think we know the obvious answer, right? I mean,
What would be the second thing you would do?
um, the second thing I would do is I would let me make sure I answer this honestly. I think I think what I would do is I would probably put on something kind of attractive, like revealing, or I just dress in kind of an appealing way, and I think I would just go into public, and I would try to see what it feels like to just be a girl in public and understand what it feels like to have a lot of other men, just what it feels like, because it almost it's like another world. I don't understand it at all, and I think I would understand the woman's psyche a lot more if I was able to experience that, because I think it's a real thing that men just really don't understand on any level, what it's like to be a woman with guys looking at you, and you're complete physically, you wouldn't be able to fight against someone if they were to
I
attack.
think you understand it though. Like you just saying that you understand it. Like you don't have to be,
I guess, yeah, but
yeah.
I would want to feel what that was like. I think, hmm.
That seems like the nice PC answer. Now, can you tell me what you would really do if you were a girl for a day?
Once 11 o'clock at night starts rolling around, I think I would. I mean, I'd fondle myself quite a bit. I would say, like,
I said already. That's the
yeah,
first thing
okay, okay,
you
okay,
do.
okay.
The second thing. The second
Let's just say my breasts
thing.
would be
The main focus of the day.
in
Yeah.
terms of coloration, um, from irritation, from palpation.
I love it.
Um, I think, I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, because I think a lot of it would have to do with like the sexual experience. Like, I mean, honestly, that's a lot of what my answer would be around that. I
Would
would
you
want to
want
see.
to
I would
be?
want to see how my emotional palette changes. I would want to see,
That's
because
a good answer.
I think girls see the world in a completely different way than men do. Obviously, anecdotal, get it. But generally speaking, I think girls have a different emotional palette and see the world through a different emotional lens than men, generally speaking. And I would really focus on that. I would really focus on my emotions. I really focus on how my desires, my innate desires, because I think what it seems like is that women in general are more interested in people, while guys in general are more interested in
Interested in
things.
things.
Yes,
Yeah.
the big distinction. And I think I would really feel that. I'd feel what the holes in my soul were. I'd feel what voids was I trying to fill? Because as a guy, I feel the voids I'm trying to fill. As a girl, I think they might be different. I think that it might be. Do you feel like a girl in your soul? Do you feel like you are a female entity?
Do you feel like a boy in your soul?
I don't know.
I think
Look,
we have
I
both.
I I think on some level, I'm gonna allude to an experiment. I think it was like the it was like the something prison experiment. It was a psychological experiment which basically elucidated the fact that people, when they're given a role, they
Yeah.
tend to embody that role.
Stanford prison experiment, something.
Yeah, something like that. It's Stanford prison experiment.
Stanford prison experiment. That's what it is. Yes.
Yeah, yes. So I think that's a very exemplary study that has so many implications. It's crazy. Like when you're given a role in life and you think you have a role, whatever it may be, whether gender, job position, you tend to embody that. And whatever your archetypal idea is of what that role is, you'll will manifest within you. So if you're a prison guard, which was what this study was, your archetypal prison guard, it might be a tough guy that beats the shit out of prisoners. And subconsciously you'll start to embody that. And I think a lot of what gender is that. I think a lot of what the embodiment of gender is in a sense that. I also think it's physiological because unfortunately our psyches are governed by our biology, which
Why
is
is that unfortunate?
because I think the view I like to romanticize about is that your psyche is separate from biology. Like your soul is sort of a separate entity, but it's not. And unfortunately, you
It
you
might be. I mean, we don't know.
you lobotomize someone's brain
Hmm.
and they become a different person.
But that's the thing. They only become a different person outwardly. Maybe on the inside they're screaming and they want to be different.
Okay, sure. But what's scary to me is that, at least behaviorally, it's not evident that the person is aware that they have become different.
Yeah.
Not aware that after a person experiences a concussion, they're aware that their personality changes. It is not apparent to me that a person with a dissociative personality disorder is necessarily aware that they have a dissociative personality disorder, which is another interesting topic, by the way, because I think we're all made up of multiple personalities. I think we're all in some way, we
Yes,
all,
I completely agree. Like around a certain group of people, I will act a certain way, and then around like somebody else, I'll act a different way. And it's only slight differences. I'm not changing the core of who I am. I'm still the same person. You just adapt to the situation that you're in, which is what we're built to do. I don't think it's like fake to do that, but I do notice myself doing that.
yes, that, and also the fact that I think every day you live is its own personality. Let me explain what I mean by that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think you get an accumulation of separate personalities that ends up developing a net personality. And so you are still carrying your personality from when you were a toddler. You are still carrying that with you. And
Yeah.
it's in some way, whether or not you realize it, it's still embodied within you. And so I think people with dissociative personality disorders, their integration mechanism is fucked up. Their ability to differentiate or accumulate and create a net personality is fucked up. So they create a bunch of different ones, but it's different versions of themselves. It's very bizarre. But so when you see, if you watch it, I encourage anyone listening to this to watch an interview with someone with dissociative personality disorder and watch them switch personalities. It's really bizarre. It's really bizarre, and you'll watch it and be like, that's a weird disorder. But when you really think about it, you're not much different. I think everybody It's com-
Michelle and I have talked about this, and she works in that like sphere. She works in a mental hospital in Boston, and
yeah.
how she has explained it to me, from what I understand, and maybe this is incorrect and rudimentary, but this is what I understand. She says that multiple personality disorder is not really you having multiple personalities. It's you having some sort of defense mechanism. It's you kind of, it's almost like a delusionary state. You don't actually have all of these personalities that you switch from. It's it's not really multiple personalities. It's all you. It's just a mental disorder.
Right, which kind of aligns with what I was saying in the sense that it's a person with dissociative personality disorder doesn't they haven't they don't have any extra personalities that someone who
Yeah.
doesn't have dissociative personality disorder doesn't have. They don't have the proper integration mechanism. They aren't able to meld them together into one net entity. They're separated. They're their own mutually exclusive entities, and they bounce between them, and they have amnesia. They get dissociative amnesia.
Yeah.
They don't even remember experiences they had as another identity, and it's fascinating to me because the way I see, like, you're always subconsciously choosing which personality is going to be at the forefront, whichever your super ego is
They're
coming.
only slightly different. I think for normal people, they're only slightly different. You're like, the words that you say are only slightly tweaked. The way that you speak, your actual like inflection points might be only slightly different. I don't think it's I don't think you're subconsciously choosing like which version of myself do I want to put out in the world today. It's a very slight difference.
But I think that's what you're explaining is the consequence of what we consider to be normal cognitive development. I think it's an illusion. I think it's generally speaking an illusion because you've embodied um, many psychological forms. You've been in many different psychological states in your stream of consciousness throughout this life you've had, where you've thought many different things and you were convinced of many different things. The only difference day to day is every day it changes. And if you think about it as like a graph, think about it as like a topographical
Stock
graph.
market.
Huh? Yes. And you think about each personality as having sort of a column, and the magnitude of how prevalent a personality is within your own psyche is represented by the height of the column. I think every day the same personalities might exist, but the column heights alter. So one might raise a little
Yeah.
bit. And I think to me that's what development is. And I think every day it kind of gets more and more nuanced, and you hone it subconsciously. You
Yeah.
don't perceive it as you don't perceive that exact thing happening. It manifests in odd ways. Does that make sense? I don't know if I'm explaining
No,
this.
no, it kind of makes sense. I get it. But let me switch gears here. Um, do
Go ahead.
you believe in love?
Okay. Yeah.
Romantic love.
Yeah. So the way I see love is I see love. A lot of people use love as sort of an ambiguous, nebulous word. The way I see love is it's a fusion of experience. It's a fusion of experience in the sense that love develops when you spend time with someone, you experience the same things with someone over time, and there becomes a a fusion of shared experience, and they effectively become part of yourself. That's the way I see it. And the way I see it is it becomes a symbiosis, and it becomes a, I don't know if this is a word, but you sort of I don't know if this you sort of dichotomize your personality. You become an entity with two separate beings with someone.
Yes. Yeah.
And and to me, I think a lot, that's what love is. Love, and when when you lose love and the pain that happens with that, because you're losing a part of yourself, you're losing a part of your psyche. And to me, a lot of like love a lot of times seems like a very abstract phenomenon, but to me that's what it is. To me, I think love is shared experience. You choose to share life experience and development with someone, and you have a shared consciousness in many ways, and it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing for sure. um, but I don't have this very abstract, romanticized, no pun intended, idea of love. I don't think love is like some um, like spiritual entity that embodies you when you meet someone magical. I don't have that.
So you don't believe in love at first sight?
No, I guess not. I mean, based on my definition of love, that wouldn't make sense.
Do you think love is a type of magic?
Okay, so magic,
Do you
again, to
believe
talk
in
about
magic?
magic, we need to agree on a definition of what magic,
No,
what
no,
you
we don't. Do you
I
believe in magic?
do. Let me say this. I think things that we currently think are not possible are in fact possible. We just don't know how to do them yet. And so, in a sense, you could consider that, yes, magic is possible. However, I think everything is magic until you understand it. I don't think, like, I think the idea of magic is a flawed idea because magic is only in relation. If something is possible, then inherently it's not magic. If something occurs, it's not magic, in my definition.
If something has an explanation, it's not magic, right?
If something occurs, it must therefore have an explanation.
Does love have an explanation?
I believe so. I believe there's a definitive explanation for what love is. I think it's a symbiosis and it's a melding of consciousness. And I think that fusion is perceived as love. I think it's a comfort, it's a beautiful thing. You get to share and increase the bandwidth of effectively your consciousness. I think that's what a relationship is. You're increasing the bandwidth of your conscious being, and I think that is really what love is. Like when we say it's love, it's just a word, but effectively, I think if you had to define what that is, it's shared experience, it's shared consciousness. And I like if an alien was studying human behavior, I think that's somewhat of how they would define love, in my opinion. And
Okay.
I feel the strong emotions. I remember, I still feel love. I get it, or what I think is love, but that's what I think it is. I think you can develop love for anyone.
What is your best quality and your worst quality?
My worst quality, it's tough. There's so many.
People people usually find it easier to define their worst quality than their best quality, which I think is
I got
interesting.
a lot of contenders for worst. Um,
Don't we all?
um, fuck. Let me. Okay, my best quality, I think, is when I get determined to do something, when I mentally decide that I'm going to do something, there's virtually nothing you can do to stop me. And I genuinely believe that. You would have to kill me a lot of times for me to to stop doing something I have my mind set on. And I think in a lot of ways that translates to work ethic. I think if I really decide I want to get something done effectively, I believe I have the ability to really strap myself in, and I think that's effective for a lot of things. My worst quality, I think, I mean, there's a couple contenders. I could say I I guess my tendency to reach for comfort, I don't I think comfort is death in a lot of ways. I think comfort,
Bit extreme.
but hear me out. I think comfort leads to stagnance, and stagnance leads to death. And I think a lot of forms of comfort are heroin.
So you don't want to fall in love?
Again, you're talking to someone who romanticizes,
Sadness?
not in,
Suffering?
yes, I do. I really do. I enjoy, in a weird way, being in a bad mental state.
Maybe that's your worst quality.
But here's the thing. If it's something, but I find beauty in it, and it becomes not a bad thing. Do you understand?
But
It's
why would you,
perceive it
why
as
you're
a thing.
putting, in order to find beauty, you're like putting yourself into like shitty situations. You're making yourself feel bad. It's almost like some sort of masochistic thing.
But here's the thing. I think because I'm trying to elucidate in my own life the beauty of that sort of darkness, because I think that's a lot, it's representative of human nature, and in a lot of ways I think human nature is in a lot of ways darkness. I think we like to put up the facade that it isn't. Everyone knows that we're all going to die. Everyone knows that this life is transient. Everyone knows that things are weirdly morbid. We have to eat other creatures to stay alive. And there's a lot of things that seem malevolent about this reality. And I think a lot of people like to put themselves under the illusion that that's not the case, and that we are living in a paradise. And
Because
this,
but think about it, if we're always thinking about all this stuff, like people would be depressed and go crazy.
right. But see, my mindset on it is completely different. I think I'm trying to master it and learn to love it. You learn to enjoy it. And that's when I think you're winning, because when you can learn to enjoy the darkest aspects of life and see the beauty in them, I think at that point you can't, nothing can kill you. Like there's really, you you are ready, in my opinion, once you've confronted it and digested it and fully, completely, in every way digested the things you're afraid of. I think that's really, in my, again, my opinion, I think that's really one of the main ways to self-actualize and see who you really are. I think a lot, it's really tempting to be delusional in a lot of senses. I think it's tempting to go through life with rose-tinted glasses on, and I prefer not to. And that's my decision. I prefer to not reach for the comfort and just let me see what happens when I put myself in an uncomfortable situation
Truth
cycle.
seeking like that can be so destructive and painful.
But
But
here's the thing. I see where you're coming from, and I get the
I
risk in it.
also see where you're coming from. I do. I just, yeah.
That's what excites me about it. I like the idea of putting myself in a tenuous situation and seeing what happens. And here's the thing. I keep
Dude,
myself.
maybe you secretly just want to be pegged. Like that's fine. We can put out an ad on Craigslist for that. Like I get
It's
it.
already up. It's
A
already up.
little bit of masochism is quite healthy and good and
To
interesting.
get pegged. It's not really masochism. I mean, you can call it that, but it's, to me, I in my mental construct of what I'm saying makes perfect sense to me, because it I've I've experienced what I thought was what I thought would make me happy. And I really got everything I wanted in the time that I wanted it. And it didn't do what I thought it would do. It really didn't. It didn't make me better. It it brought out some negative things, and I'm trying different things because I'm trying to expand. I'm doing everything I can to not become just parochial, just completely narrow-minded and in my own loop. I'm trying to stay aware of the context of things, because I think that's important. I think it's always important to understand the context of everything about your life. Everything is transient.
You can't understand everything.
I'm not saying you're going to understand everything, but to understand the context in a relative timeline, I think is important, and understand the context of reality and understanding that things aren't always good. And that's okay.
Do
That's
you
okay.
do you watch Lex Friedman's podcast?
Yes, of course. He's great.
He had this podcast with Manolo, somebody or
Yes.
yeah, you know who I'm talking about. He and one of the times Manolo or that guy was saying how he was saying how like pain and suffering, there is a sort of beauty to that. And once you realize that, yeah, pretty much what you're saying, it just, you have to understand that not everything can be pink and rosy and beautiful all the time.
Let me ask you a question. Why are you afraid of being alone?
Why is everyone, I mean, why is anyone afraid of being alone? Because we all, at a certain level, like hate ourselves and are afraid to know what we really think.
Exactly. And I think it's, you can either run away from it, or you can confront it and try to beat it.
I mean, no matter how much you confront yourself, you can never truly understand yourself. And that's why I think that second
So
person,
does
that
that mean you shouldn't try?
no, no, no. I just mean that uh what's the word I'm looking for? Like committing yourself to yourself and only yourself, it's nice and it's good for a while, but at a certain point you hit this like wall where in order to understand more about yourself, you need a pair of outside eyes. And that's why I think a relationship, friendship, romantic, whatever, that like close person to you, it's very valuable because you can never fully understand the depths of yourself. You're always a little bit biased.
Okay. So I think your perception of what, let me explain. I'm not opposed to a relationship. I'm not. I'm not saying I am completely opposed to a relationship. However, I am not going to get in a relationship out of obligation. And I will never do that. I will never seek out a relationship because I feel like I should be in a relationship. Let
Do
me
you
put it
think that's what most people do?
No. No, I don't.
Why would anyone want to be in a relationship that they feel obligated to be in?
Because a lot of people, and I think if you deny this, you're delusional. I think a lot of people going through life get in relationships and get married because it's the thing to do and because they're afraid of being alone. And it's not like it's not like people getting into relationships and getting married have like self-actualized and realized who they are and then thought, let me find someone who's my counterpart and we can augment each other and reach a higher transcendence. I don't think most relationships are that. I might be wrong, and I might be wrong. I don't think most relationships are that. I think most relationships are, I find you moderately attractive. Let's hang out multiple times, build a shared consciousness with each other.
And then after you kind of build that and you have that level of comfort, it's really hard to let go because then you know you have to start all over from square zero with somebody
It's
else.
really scary, yes. But that's
I
the thing.
think being afraid of being alone isn't necessarily being afraid of being alone right now. It's afraid of ending up alone at the end.
But again, this is a weird thought in my opinion, because like, why do you have to be afraid of being alone?
Because then your legacy is over. At least if you have someone, if you procreate, if you have children, if you have some sort of legacy to leave behind, if people love you, then it seems like okay, more okay to
Why do
go.
you care about a legacy?
Why does anyone care about a legacy? Everyone wants a little bit of not immortality, but in a way, yeah, immortality. That is your
Everyone wants to
immortality.
leave their handprint in the sand, right? It's
Yeah.
everyone. I'm just saying, like, I feel it too.
If
I'm not
you
saying I
say
don't.
you don't,
I'm
then
not
you're
saying I don't.
delusional.
I'm not saying I don't. I feel it very strongly. But the thing is, I think a powerful thing is to become consciously aware of your own desires, become consciously aware of what your body and psyche is telling you should do, and become aware of it from a third party perspective.
Agree. And then you can find someone who suits you because then you understand who you are.
Yeah, I really think you
Let me then ask you this. What is your favorite quality in other people?
open-mindedness. Boom, done. Open-mindedness. That's, to me, that's the biggest. If you can break out of the net tunnel vision that a lot of people are in, which a lot of people are in tunnel vision mode. You're people like totally brainwashed. It's scary to me. It's scary how many individuals I meet that are just, they're asleep. Like they're not there. They're like, it's scary. I don't know how
Asleep
to
is a good way to put it. Asleep is a very good way to put it.
that. I mean, that's how I perceive it, at least. And my favorite quality is when someone can still be excited about life, and someone can still be excited about, like, that 5-year-old excitement you had when you were curious and you wanted to know about the world. And I think I love when I meet people who have still managed to harness that, and still managed to harness the excitement about new things and new ideas and new. I love that. I love that. I struggle with that. I don't necessarily carry that all the time. I think I can.
What? Yes, you do.
I try, but I'm consciously aware. Here's the thing. I'm consciously aware, but my natural instinct is to have tunnel vision, and I feel it. I feel my natural only care about yourself, do what you want to do. I actively say, no, I hate that quality. Fuck that quality. And and now it's artificial at first, it feels natural now. I genuinely care about a lot of things. I care about people. I care about you. I care about what happens in your life. I'm not just narrow minded, or at least I don't think I am. And it feels good. And I really, really, really love that trait in other people. I love when someone else can say, hey, what are you into? And they can actually have a conversation with you about it. And then you can repeat that to them. To me, that's what I look for in a relationship. That's really the main quality I look for, to be honest with you. Um, yeah,
Yeah, otherwise it's no fun.
yeah, exactly, exactly.
Agree.
To me, that's like not even a competition. I think open-mindedness and curiosity and a lust for life is beautiful, and that's my favorite trait in people. And I think that's what I find so infatuating about other people, when people have that and they are infectious. Like, to me, oh, I love that. It's great. I really, yeah. I know you deal with depression a lot, and I think you've made that clear on previous episodes. um, why do you think that is, and do you think you have it under control?
Um, I think I was depressed as a kid before I don't think I was aware of it for a long time, and I think that's just how I was. I think maybe I'm the kind of person who was born sad a little bit. Um, but do I have it under control? As much as I can, I think yes. I think it's not that I have it under control, it's that I have been dealing with it for a time now, at least 4 years. And during that time, I've realized what triggers me, what helps during the times that I feel I'm a little bit extra susceptible to that. It's more about just knowing how to deal with it when it hits, and less about like I'm I'm cured. Like I'm not cured.
Could you define depression for me?
The way that I define it is just feeling heavy. Everything is heavy, and your eyelids are heavy, and your body is heavy, and things make you tired, and you go home after an interaction and you go over that interaction in your head a million times and you hate like every part of it, even though during you were like kind of happy with it. It's just like extreme self-doubting, extreme like recurrent like kind of cyclical thoughts and feeling very heavy.
So a lot of it has to do with self-deprecation.
I think self-deprecation is a symptom, not a defining it's a symptom. It happens sometimes.
When I say the word apathy, how does that resonate with the idea of depression?
Almost synonymous. It's apathy for it starts out as an apathy. It's like a baseline of apathy, and the trick is to like fight that apathy. You have to care about yourself in order to get better. You have to fight the apathy in order to get better.
Is apathy the causation, or is it a latent function?
I think the causation is different for everybody. It sometimes comes out of nowhere, like some sort of suppressed memory or trigger, and apathy seems to be just a symptom that comes along with it.
If you had to find one common denominator between everyone who is clinically diagnosed or claims to be clinically depressed, what do you think the common denominator might be?
Feeling heavy. Heavy. That is the word. Heavy.
If I could I say that heavy is synonymous with lethargy?
Kind of, but it's like a lethargy of the soul. It's like your heart weighs like 10 tons more than normal. It's like gravity is acting on you extra.
Could that theoretically be a manifestation of not wanting to just engage in life? It's just so you're psychologically deep in your psyche, you might be tired of just life in general, and that manifests into a sense of heaviness.
That would imply that I would want to end my life somewhere deep inside, and I don't. I want to live and I want to be happy and I want to be rid of this feeling. And a lot of people who are suicidal or who attempt suicide say that like a second after they do what they did, they regret it. They realize that they want to live.
Would you say that you have, outside of interpersonal relations, would you say that you are passionate for aspect of life?
Yes. I'm
Could you name a
definitely
couple passions?
a couple of passions.
Or passion, a passion.
I I love I love people and like my interactions with people, and I love my friendships that I've developed and that have dissipated or that have stayed, and I love the question of love and how to make love stay, and I love reading, and I love listening to other people's ideas, and I love like watching other people exist, even though sometimes it's creepy because I should be on my phone when I'm not.
So a lot of your psyche and passion and lust for life is revolved around the idea of love. And it's so would you say that your primary purpose for being here in this experience, if there was one thing, your primary takeaway It's the seeking out and the attainment of love,
Perfecting it.
perfecting it.
And it doesn't have to be even with a person or an animal. It can be like really, really loving a place. I've only experienced a connection to land one time, and it was with that horseback riding camp. You just love the grounds. You love the land, like where it is. The sky is like different there. And I just, that feeling of like absolute like melting into an experience or into a person, that like complete vulnerability that like love and insinuates, is that's like what makes everything worth it and beautiful.
See, what you just said there is beautiful because I've never thought of it in that way, honestly. Because that kind of made me realize that I think love, romantic love, what we think of romantic love, can doesn't necessarily have to manifest in romantic love or between two people. You know, that's interesting. That's interesting that you say that because I think a lot of the things I chase in my life really boil down. Like if you really boil it down to its constituents, you could say it's a seeking love in a lot of ways because that, I mean, really, like when you really boil it down. So that's interesting. But to me, my purpose for existence, my takeaway, I don't share that. It's a big factor. Don't get me wrong, it's a big factor. And I might be wrong here. And I have a feeling in 10 years, if I watch this right now, I'm gonna say I'm I'm wrong. I'm talking bullshit. And that's fine. Hi, future self. But I think maybe I am seeking out love really indirectly. I think probably that's what I am doing, as much as I try to repress the idea that that's what I'm doing. But it's kind of interesting, right? Like when you really boil down what everyone's main goal is, it's kind of revolved around that, right?
Yeah.
So do you think your basis of the quality of your life is solely oriented around that factor?
Not
Like your
solely.
status of love is.
I have other goals, like I'm going to be a dentist. I'm going to be a professional. I'm doing stuff on we started cadaver labs actually.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
It gives anatomical pictures a whole new meaning. Like when I look at I'm working out like a lot right now, and I look at those like pictures, like anatomy pictures, and I'm like really understanding where those muscles are, it's
Yeah.
wow.
That's really interesting. I can't imagine seeing a cadaver as kind of unnerving. That must be weird.
I thought it was gonna be more. I thought I was going to be. I was a little bit afraid or maybe like sad that I wasn't more sad when I saw that. I was like walking in there preparing myself to be absolutely like horrified. And then as soon as I got to the body, I was like cutting it up, like having the best time, being super bossy in my group. Like,
Are you scared of working on a live human?
yeah, I mean, at least the first time. I'm excited for when it seems natural.
Are you scared of the future or are you excited for the future?
I'm excited for the future, but something that I've learned is that whatever you think your future is going to be, it's not going to be like that at all.
How does this resonate with you? If you want to get something done, do it while you are procrastinating. Make it the thing that you do when you're procrastinating.
Isn't that a little antithetical? Like, if you're procrastinating, then you won't want to do anything. I think what maybe you're trying to say is, or how I understand that is, the people who are the most busy have the most time. Like the most busy people who have like the most shit going on, they can always fit in like an extra thing. And if you're procrastinating, if you're the kind of person who like all you do all day is like sit on the couch, then it almost seems like I don't have time for anything. Like, you know, my 3 activities for the day, I can't fit anything else in there.
See, that's an interesting way to think about it. The way I think about it is when I have something I know I have to do, whatever it is that I know I don't have to do becomes a very appealing thing all of a sudden. So I think a mental trick I've been using lately is i.e. studying for the MCAT, which is like bashing your head against the fucking wall for 6 months.
Yeah.
Things become very tantalizing that previously weren't.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, like the idea of just learning something musical, like learning a new piece of music theory, which traditionally, if I wasn't studying for the MCAT, I'd say, ugh, like I don't want to do that. But when you're studying for the MCAT, all of a sudden learning a piece of music theory seems like a nice vacation.
Yeah.
And you find
That's
your
a special circumstance though. That's a very special
but it's
circumstance.
not. But it's not because there's other manifestations of it. You can, I think, if you really want to do something, you have to make it the thing you do when you're procrastinating. And I mean, I think if you really want to get something done, like in an efficient manner, I've
But
never
then
seen myself work so efficiently at something than when I was doing it while I was procrastinating. It's amazing. I
I only ever do what I do when I procrastinate is clean. That's my thing that I do. I don't.
yeah, I mean, that's sort of a one side effect of when I'm procrastinating too, definitely. But that goes hand in hand. Like cleaning sucks unless you're my mom. My mom wakes up every day and she just
It's
goes,
fun. It's fun.
"This is why I need a woman in my life
Yeah.
because that's the hole in my soul that I need to be filled is the enjoyment of cleaning." Which see,
It is
I'm gonna
fun
get canceled.
though.
I mean, I'm glad you find it fun. What is your favorite what is your favorite or most fascinating to you system about the human body, system in the human body? What is to you the most thought provoking or most interesting or most beautiful or most whatever?
Okay, I can tell you this. The thing I'm most interested about the human body is the function and form of the glutes. That's like I don't know why. I love butts. I love like working on and developing glutes. Those are like my favorite exercises to do. I'm always like on
Giving
my
you an
YouTube.
easier answer. Okay, okay.
No,
Wow.
that really is my answer. I'm always ready to learn about that. Anything muscle related, like anything hypertrophy related, like I love that. I think our muscles are fucking like beautiful. How they're striated in the direction that they're supposed to go. How our vestibular system also, how it's
That's
both
another
for
thing. That's a whole other thing.
it's a lot of things. I can't like
That's a whole other answer. Vestibular system is a whole ass other answer.
yeah, it is. It is. I mean, there's a lot of things. There's a whole lot of things, but I think mainly what I'm interested in is muscles and musculature and how it all I think I like it because it's like functional for me. Like if I learn about muscles, then I can like literally grow. I can like hypertrophy. I can use that information in my own life, and that's why I like it so much.
So the muscular system. Let's widen it from the glutes and just make it a muscular system. Yeah.
But glutes specifically. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I would agree with that. I think I share that favorite muscle with you.
Yeah.
Less less of less of the glute, more of the subcutaneous fat. I digress. Anyways, I think my favorite system has to be the nervous system. I mean, like, how can you not say that? Really? I mean, like, I think your answer is completely bogus. Basically, that's what I'm trying to tell you.
I just love the muscles. I love the sarcomeres. Actually, though,
Sarcomeres are
I
nice.
did low key think of you during we were dissecting something and we were looking for the
You
sympathetic.
think me as you're dissecting a human body, you go, oh, Harris.
Well, this is why, because I remember in whatever class we had that Dutch professor for 70.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
croissant guy. Yeah.
Yeah, yep, yep. So remember when we were learning about the like reflexes, the spinal reflexes versus like the myenteric reflex, the like whatever, all that shit.
Monosynaptic reflex arcs. Yeah.
I love those. I think they're great. I saw a human being's sympathetic chain in their spine. I literally saw it. I saw the rami communicans. I saw the sympathetic chain, and I was like, this is like the coolest thing I've seen.
That's
Okay, it's called.
how you write things down. I think that's largely a thing lost in time, and you're keeping it going, and I appreciate that.
Dude,
Go
I
ahead.
haven't written anything though in the longest time. I'm trying. I'm trying.
Well, don't quit because it's a beautiful thing. Go ahead.
Okay, December 12th, 2012. Treat everyone as if they were God.
Wait,
Uh,
wait, let's let that one resonate a little bit. Treat everyone as if they were God.
like I meant it as if like God came down and like was this human and you didn't know it was them. Like basically like be nice to everyone is I think what I was trying to say.
I think I like that. I think at first that it's not palatable at first, but the more you digest it, I think it kind of makes sense. I think give everyone the benefit of the doubt. I mean, I think that's important. I mean, there's a lot of fucking stupid assholes, that's for sure. um, let's keep that in mind. But I think I'm sorry to my future employers that are 3 hours into this podcast at this point. I don't mean that in any offensive way, and I don't mean that to any patients. Maybe
That's assuming they watch the whole thing. Like I
I'm saying if they make it 3 hours in, they need to know that I don't mean that statement, and I think everyone's good.
no, they
Especially my patients, maybe.
do you believe people are good like initially or do you think people are innately good?
So that's like the humanistic perspective, right? The humanistic psychological perspective is that individuals are innately good, and that we basically try to manifest that in different ways. I'm paraphrasing, that's probably inaccurate, whatever. No one cares. Um, no, yeah, I think everyone's their own. I think everyone's the protagonist in their own story. I think everyone,
It's their own dimension, dude. It's literally their
yeah,
own fucking dimension.
and that's what's troubling, because you see people being fucking objective assholes. Like you see that guy just like completely weaving through traffic on the highway, just beeping at people, and like you hate that guy. You hate that guy immediately, or girl. Um,
But why does it matter? Okay, hate them, but you forget about them 2 seconds later.
I'm not. Look, I'm not. I don't even know what I'm talking about at this point.
Okay, wait. Let me finish. I'm just gonna read you a couple of these. They're
Oh, you should give them the benefit of the doubt because you don't know what their situation is.
exactly. That's what I always think on the road, actually. But anyways,
But you never do it. You end up flipping them off and saying, "I hope they die." Right?
yeah.
Yeah. So okay. So
Okay. Close your eyes, but keep your mind wide open. A goal without a plan is just a wish. If you really want something, then you need it. If you really need something, then it's human nature to do everything you can to get it.
ooh,
Don't,
okay. Oh, let me let that sit. All those.
okay.
You mean,
If you really
how
want,
old were you when you wrote this shit down?
2012.
Really? See, when I was in 2012, I was a literal like I was a primate. I like essentially I think like psychologically I was not much different from an orangutan.
We're an Oonga Boonga. That's what I'm
Like
called.
I wasn't writing down like existential advice in a journal. Like
I think I
I was
was smarter when I was younger. I think every year that I've aged since 2012, I've gotten more stupid.
it's great. It's great. Yeah. So you're definitely going downhill.
Yeah, I know.
Um, no, that's beautiful. I mean, wow, that's like a very that's a very heavy thought. Like if you really need something, you'll do it's human nature that you'll do everything you can to attain it. I mean, Wow, yeah, I think I resonate with that heavily. I mean, I think that's a beautiful statement. I don't know where you got that advice, but yeah, I mean, or if you came up with that yourself.
Some of them are obviously
In which
me.
case, you need to bring up that inner 12-year-old to the surface because that's
I
great.
mean,
That's
I
great
know.
fuel for car.
Where did she go? I have no idea.
She's buried under years of
Drama.
like self-consciousness and just fucking because that's everyone's problem, right?
This is literally what we were just talking about. December 17th, 2012. Don't change yourself when you're around someone. Be yourself.
Yes, I mean, yeah, that's the name of the game. I mean, that's I would say that's pretty good advice. That's some but then again, there's a couple people I think maybe change yourself a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, agree.
There's a few people I've met in the last couple of years where I would think I want to do a little bit of editing, just a
Yeah.
little cleanup, and then take it into public.
Interviewing for your medical school, clean it up, edit it out. Just be not yourself.
I'm gonna go full on. I'm just gonna go full blown.
I'm white.
Or I'm just you know what? Let's not. That's
Yeah,
don't.
we'll not go down this road. Okay. Um
Don't glaze over the corny ones.
we don't die inhaling, we exhale, we leave it all behind.
Wow, wait a second. That's fucking dark. 12?
2012.
I was literally like throwing a ball at a fucking stone wall, going like, dude, let's hang out with like let's get some fucking slushies. Like you're fucking right.
That was
That's
no,
incredible.
that was 2000, that was 14, 15 years old. That's like kind of
I mean, yeah, I guess. I mean, again, I was like a Neanderthal till I was probably 22. Like,
I regressed, so it's better to think before you say, but it's never better not to say anything at all. I don't think that's true anymore.
it's never. Hold on, there's too many negatives. It's never better not to say. Say it again. What? It's it's never not better to never not say anything. Yeah.
Okay. It's better to think before you say. I agree. It is better to think before you say,
Yes.
but it's never better it's never better to stay silent.
It's never better to stay silent. Yeah, I think there's some flaws in that.
Yeah.
I think
Sometimes
if you're on a
shut
subway
up.
and some guys pissing on an old lady.
Or an autistic Jewish boy.
Okay, that too. Well, maybe you should vocalize that. I don't know. I think that is the threshold. Just a Jewish boy, no, an autistic Jewish boy. You say something. Please edit that out.
Okay. Oh my god.
Life is but an evanescent what this is beautiful. I'm not poking fun. I'm just this is seriously I enjoy this. The fact that you keep journals is such a lost art to me. Like if I don't think any girl in my 25-mile vicinity has I think they just
Why do you always say
I'll tell you what their journal is. It's Twitter.
I don't think it matters girl boy. I think it's rare.
Right.
Okay, last thing. February 24th, 2013. As we go through life, we don't discover ourselves, we create ourselves.
I think I like that. I think I like that idea. Because I don't like the idea of like finding my form. I like the idea of no, I have control over it, you know.
Yeah.
So I think what is the moral of this podcast? Is it that glutes are the most important muscle? Yes. Is it also that you should you should not try to find yourself per se, but more so you should try to mold yourself. Your brain is malleable. I'm guessing if you're watching this, you're probably naive and young. Your brain is malleable, so use it like a ball of clay and morph it into what you want it to be and make that your reality. That's the moral of this whole podcast. You listen to two idiots who are a bit inebriated off Capri Suns, non-alcoholic, and you came out of it a worse person. Let's be honest. You probably are coming out of this. If you've made it this far, like your life is in shambles, and I hope you get better. Really, what this is saying is, if you're at this point in the podcast, I genuinely hope you get better and heal yourself.
I hope you receive help for your mental health. Like,
Get help. Don't do it.
don't wait. Get help.
Don't do it. It's not worth it. Seriously, it's
Don't
not
do
worth
what?
it.
Don't do what?
You know what we're talking about.
I'm lost.
If you're this far in the podcast, don't kill yourself. Seriously, it's not worth it. It's you need to figure out what makes you happy. That's all I'm saying. And to my future self watching this, and to future Polina watching this, hi, I hope you're doing well. I hope you're happy. I hope you found love. I hope your love has manifested. And I hope Harris, please don't find comfort. Don't find comfort. It's not worth it. If you're comfortable right now, stop. Get out of it. And if you're with a girl right now, punch her in the head and kick her out of your house.
Yep.
I think that's a really important thing that I need to carry with me. No,
Dude,
but
it really seems like you need a good pegging, is what it seems like.
Future me, I hope you're currently getting pegged while watching this. By this time, there's probably going to be an Elon Musk auto pegging machine that hooks up to your iPhone, and I'm going to have it.
It's not going to take me that long to upload this, you know.
Please edit that out. The auto pegging specifically, just edit that out. You can keep everything else in, but when I say auto pegging,
oh my God,
don't want that on the internet.
Okay, say goodbye to everybody. Goodbye.